controller is now. Like, like I looked at it, like I tried to find it. I still can't find it. I'm like, oh my god. I think I got.
Potrock's talking about how he destroyed his controller because he hates Xbox. Shout out to everyone in chat. Thank you so much for tuning in to Go Live. We're going to have, every time I say it, but this one's going to be a spicy show. Some things have happened. I can't wait for the discussions that we're about to have. It's going to be an incredible one. Even Asa is going to be excited about the not so hot topic, which is now very hot, which is ABK. I'm sure, right, Asa? We haven't talked to each other at all since last week, actually.
Well, of course I bloody won't. Don't be an idiot. It's not interesting.
Oh, damn it. Well, big things are happening, and there's lots of topics to discuss. Before we do that, we have to introduce these two guests. Oh, I saw your comments. You guys are so raw. Potrock came on and he killed it last time. When he came on last time, you were like, yo, you know what? He's really good. He's feisty. He is the bad guy. He's wearing the Joker shirt. He knows he's the evil one. He's not. A shout out to Potrock for the PlayStation community, 60 frames, no lag, and honestly, I consider a really good content creator and a good acquaintance as well. And I am more than pleasure. By the way, if anyone chats shit, no insults in the chat to any of our guests, any of the console warring stuff, you can't direct that with any insults to our guests. There's zero tolerance there. But shout out to Potrock in the good. No, not the wrong music. That's the one I was supposed to play. Oh no, you gotta stop! Hi, Potrock.
Hey, hello, old friends. Hello, everybody. Asa, Asante, what's going on, everybody? Hey, I see what's happening, with this Reforged guy. That, he's pissing y'all guys off. He's not up to the task. Listen, the Xbox community deserves a better class of criminal. I'm going to give it to you. Don't worry, the Joker's back. All right,
yes.
I'm gonna take it over. All right, this time, but I'm gonna let you know when you're good at something, never do it for free. I love the Dark Knight lines. I love those guys. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for the invite. I'm excited, and just me and Asa. Oh, we just can't wait to talk about acquisitions. Like you can see the excitement on our face. Oh, this is our favorite topic. So me and Asa right there. We just can't wait. I mean. Like the whole week, I was like, yes. I can't wait.
Well, I will park that to the end of the show because there's a lot to discuss here. That one, I want to get the games out of the way. So let's talk about that's the more important stuff, really, and just the more fun stuff. So, yeah, I know, right? What games? What are we doing here? I know we've lost our touch. Talking about video games. But last but certainly not least, it is, and I'm going to pick the right one. K.A. Asante, yeah!
What's going on, everybody? How you doing? I'm happy to be here. Didn't have a show this week on mine, so I'm happy to get some of this gaming talk out. You guys are getting fresh takes from me since myself and Everborn regulated to phone calls this morning. So thank you guys for having me.
No, thank you for being here. We have this is a good panel. This is I didn't plan. I did plan the panel, but I didn't plan the news to drop the way it did. And this is just I saw the news. I'm like, this is going to be good. But before we get into talking about all the politics of the ABK stuff, let's talk about some games. Before we do that, Potrock, what have you been playing, man?
So I've been trying to do some trophy hunting in Hogwarts Legacy.
Okay.
About 2 weeks ago, I finished the single player campaign of Modern Warfare 2.
What do you think of it?
It was great. That's one thing I say. The COD single players, I love it. Especially me being in the military, so I could associate some of the stuff. It's pretty exciting, right?
Oh yeah.
But my buddy, he had the physical copy, and him joking, he's like, "Hey, bro, I hear that you might not get a chance to ever play this game again, so you can have this copy." I'm like, you. He's like, hey, enjoy it while it lasts, right? So, but it was great that, right? This weekend, I'm gonna start playing Forspoken, so I'm gonna put Hogwarts Legacy. It just seems it's like a really long game. Feels like I'm still at the tutorial after 30 hours because something new comes up. Like, oh, now you get to learn this. I'm like, I'm 30 hours in it. Like, how much more stuff? So put a pause on that. I'm gonna jump onto Forspoken, and then I'm gonna go back and forth. And once I'm done with Forspoken, hop back onto Hogwarts. But that's my plan.
Nah, fair enough. I'm a pretty decent guy. I need to get back to Hogwarts. But
Right, I want to know more about
It's a
Forspoken.
lot.
Tell me, is Forspoken like better than people say? You enjoying it?
Oh, no, I haven't started yet.
I
So
haven't
that's my
started yet,
plan
so I
to
missed
start
that.
this weekend, right? You know, I got to prioritize. The podcast come first before gaming. That's just how the community is now. But yes, I will start this weekend, and then I'll give my opinions to see how it is, you know.
Okay, fair enough. Hopefully, so some people, it's quite divisive. It's one of those where people are like, don't listen to the reviews. The game is actually really good. Some people say that. Others are like, nah.
So I'm going to say this. So just like anything else, at the end of the day, every game, it's on the developer publisher to make the game appetizing for the gamer to jump in and look at it, right? Because it is $70, even at $60, even at when games were $50, you know, it's still money people earn, you know? So it's on you, you know, look at Hogwarts Legacy. They didn't have a problem convincing people buy this game, even though with, you know, the drama behind it and how many people were against buying it, people still bought it. So at the end of the day, just like any other merchandise, whoever makes the merchandise is their job to make it appealing. And that's how I always stand by that. It's not the gamer's job. That's why I hate the term when gamers use support devs. I'll be honest, I cannot stand that.
You hate that as well? Support the dev.
I hate that term because when people say that, I'm like, no, I support my family. You know, I don't go to McDonald's and buy a Big Mac. I know we all love talking McDonald's now, right? That's like the big wave. But I don't go in and buy a Big Mac and chicken nuggets and say, "Woo, I did my part to support McDonald's."
This corporation.
I buy something because you appeal to me, and if you don't appeal to me, then I'm not buying it. And I don't care what anybody else has to say.
I always found it weird.
That's how I see it.
I always found it weird when people say, I bought an extra copy of this game just to support the dev. And I'm like, most of the publishers are going to get a lot of that money. And I find that notion weird. I just found it weird. I was like, ultimately, my attitude is the same as yours. Obviously, I'm going to look out for myself. I am supporting, I'm not pirating the game. Then I can feel guilty and buy a game. But to go out my way to buy what is essentially a redundant copy, I guess the intention behind it is good. And that's quite important. That your heart's in the right place, I guess, but it's still a product and it's still a video game as much as we love them. And I personally find it weird. I'm with you all the way. Every time it says people support the dev, I'm like, okay, like it's good, but I'm not buying another copy just to support the dev. Yeah. I'll buy another copy if I want to play it again on another platform or something. Like Sifu, I bought the collector's edition on the PlayStation. I'm going to buy it again on the Xbox because I just want to play it there. But I don't get that. What about you, KS? What have you been playing? Don't say VR. Oh, man.
Believe it or not, myself and Porter Rock are on the same page, man. That Hogwarts Legacy has been taking my life. I'm like almost 70 or so hours in, and I'm still playing. Like it is amazing. The only thing that stopped me was this weekend's Diablo 4 beta that I've been jumping into. But yeah, like Hogwarts, like at any moment in time, if you see me playing or I'm not even online, chances are I'm kind of in the background playing Hogwarts. It's really, really taking over. And I'm like really far in, you know, got all the stuff I need to get. I'm running around. At some point on the Batman reference, at some point it becomes a Batman game, right? The combat is almost the Batman combat that you know. So I'm just looking for trouble right now, like just walking into places like, what, you got something? It's really good. Like it's so.
You're all the powerful wizard, and you're gonna make use of it now. Like
you walk in there, I see your shield colors. I got something for you. Let's go. It's really, really good. It's a great game. I'm many hours in.
It was a surprise. It ended up better than I even anticipated.
Oh yeah,
it's a fantastic.
Absolutely,
game.
Yeah. Even if you're not a Harry Potter person, if you don't like, it is a game for gamers. If you enjoy games, there's always something to do. It's perfect. Very, very good game. Yeah.
Fonzarelli does not like Harry Potter at all. I think, in fact, he shares Ace's sentiments in that he loathes Harry Potter, the movies, but he loved the game.
I don't loathe anything. I have no strong emotions in general. I'm not capable of them, but I don't like the Harry Potter.
I'm not capable of strong emotions.
I just have a distaste.
Yeah, there we go. Distaste. Let's say that.
That's it. Just a small distaste.
That's right.
Oh, I know Ace from the planet Neutron.
So I will put a plug in though. I'm also playing Chia, the indie game that came out on PS5, on the PlayStation Premium. like I'm one that loves that indie vibe, games that don't come from places you normally expect them to. Interesting little game. I think I'm about 4 hours in or something. Kind of cool. I like it. I hope more people give it a shot. And it came day and date on the service. So I'm like, hey, why not? So I'm giving it a shot. And so far I'm finding it cool. Looks like it's representing a culture that I'm not aware of, that I'm not really familiar with, and they're really infusing the game with that culture. So I'm really digging it.
That's good. It's funny you mentioned that because I put that in my exclusives way up PlayStation versus Xbox of 2023, and Cheetah featured in that, and it had a very, very, very strong Breath of the Wild vibes. I mean, there's some mechanics look like they're completely borrowed off it. How close are those gameplay mechanics to Breath of the Wild?
I mean, I haven't really seen the Breath of the Wildness of it, if you will. I do see that they've added a lot of mechanics, like systems that you wouldn't think would be systems. So like I'm playing the game, you're on a boat, you're hanging out on your boat, you have and it's not childish. It's very, very shallow, if you will. Some of the gameplay elements, go grab this, go grab that. All the while they're telling you in a very deep narrative. There's danger. There's and I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it's very the story itself seems to be far more in depth and interesting than the gameplay elements. It's very kind of simplistic so far. And then out of nowhere, I'm like, oh, let me just jump in the water. And under the water is a whole ecosystem down there. You didn't even know. Like you could just go down there and like they just keep adding more and more. Yeah, it's quite in depth as you go along. It seems quite simplistic.
Yeah,
exactly. It seems quite simplistic at first blush, but as you get into it, it seems to have a lot more to offer than I initially thought. So it's really cool, and you could just tell it's made by a small team that really loved what they were doing and was trying to put something unique out there. I can't have nothing but respect for that. So I always give those things a try. So.
Yeah, definitely a game that's on my radar as well. That's why I featured on the list. It looked really good. It looked like a very visually competent Breath of the Wild clone in first instance, but I know it's a lot more than that. Based on some of the other mechanics, you just take over different objects and animals.
You take over animals and things. Yeah, it's very strange. When she's in trouble, it triggers itself. It's almost like she can't control her power just yet. It's really cool. It's interesting. Yeah.
I'm interested to see the mechanics of that. What about you, Asa? What have you been playing? It's going to be all VR stuff. No one cares.
Oh no, not nearly enough. I've got a couple of VR games in the pipeline that I haven't started yet. I've got Switchback and Saints and Sinners 2 ready to go, so I'm going to have a good time with that in the next week or so. But I played some of the Diablo 4 stuff this weekend. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit.
Next, actually. Yeah.
Next, good. I don't know. I'll probably play some other stuff. Still playing my Horizon games and things like that. They take bloody ages, but it took me a little while to recover from being ill. So it's been a slow week.
You still playing Forbidden West? You still haven't beat it?
No. So I'm trying to get it done before the Burning Shores thing if I can.
But because they said, gotta beat your games.
I'm also trying to get through it as well.
Yeah, because in order to play the Burning Shores, you have to beat the game.
So
it's probably not one of those DLCs like The Witcher where it could take place in the middle. You don't have to fully know this.
That's good, actually.
You have to, I think so. I
like that.
I mean,
they're adding to the. I mean,
I don't mind that they're adding to the story at the end of it. I don't know the story at the end of it yet, so I've been avoiding all of the information that they've given out about Burning Shores because I know it takes place after a story that I don't know the ending of yet. So I'm about 30 or 40 hours into Forbidden West, and I've still got so much of the map to explore, and that irks me a little bit. Some games are just way too long for me, but I'll get there eventually.
I am 170 hours in, and there are still some blank parts of the map. I literally could have beaten it.
Finish the game and with blank parts of the map. I'm not doing melee pits and hunting challenges. I can sod all that boring shit. I could have beaten that game hours ago, but I was just like, my daughter loves like walking around with me, finding the biggest monsters to take down. So we just been running through that game. Like I've beaten everything except for that very last mission. So before Burning Shores, I'll just go and clean that up. But I've actually, believe it or not, I know that's an unpopular opinion. I really dig the game. I think it's great. I think it's fun.
But it's not unpopular.
Some people love to slander that game. Like people love to slander
it gets a lot of stick. It does. I like it too so far.
It does. I think it's because of
a lot of games across. Hate content is very popular.
Hate content is definitely popular. I know that.
Hate content is extremely popular. I see some ridiculous people act like. I remember Spider-Man in 2018. There was this one guy. Literally, there was nothing good Spider-Man can do, and he got super popular.
Wow.
Like I was like, wow. So I don't know. Like hate content for products is a very popular thing,
especially exclusives.
It works. Don't fight this thing. Just don't do it. You're gonna have the most beautiful experience in your life, and you're like, holy cow.
To me, Forbidden West specifically Forbidden West has the best render of African Americans or Africans, I would say, ever. Like no game does it better. It is the new benchmark. It is
best render. What do you mean by that?
Best looking hair. It is so spot on. I have never seen a game get so good at that. So you got to give them respect for that. I really think they did a really good job. Yeah. Every time you see
Lance
them,
Riddick in it as well.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's going to be. I've actually got it. I just find Aloy really dry.
Annoying.
Really dry. I just can't get into it. She reminds me almost of, if you ever played the first was it Watch Dogs? A game with the protagonist.
Yeah.
He was so dry. It was just like, bruh, like you have no personality.
Did you beat the first Horizon?
I didn't beat the first game. I went to the big, the sand open world when the whole place leveled up, opened up, and your map just gets shat on with loads of.
And you're like, yeah, let's give this.
I'm like, it's a Ubisoft game. I can't play this game.
I've spoken with everyone about it. The reason why most people that hate, that's why I asked that question. Most people that have that don't like that protagonist, the first question I ask is, did you beat the first one? Because the first one kind of explains why she is the way she is in the second one.
Why she's so boring.
But if you haven't gone through the whole thing, you don't get it, and it makes sense.
It doesn't explain why she talks to herself so much, though. This is this only narration and guidance mechanic without a companion, and it's a problem that Sony are going to have for the next game, because over the last year with Forbidden West and with God of War, a lot of people have picked up on the fact that your companion, or in that case the main character, are telling you exactly where to go and what to do and what to look at all the time. And it's something that Sony have done for years and years and years, but all of a sudden, thanks to these two games really being quite overbearing with it, now people are going to be looking into that and going, oh, I'm quite annoyed that my companion in the next Sony game keeps telling me where to go and what to do. Like, they're going to pick up on it a lot more, and it's going to be difficult for Sony to walk
and then
it back.
A shoe, and then it's all these inanimate objects that now start talking to you as you go along. Now next it'll be your shoelaces telling you to open that door. It's getting a little much. I understand.
Well, funny enough, Guerrilla Games? It's Naughty Dog, and actually Cory Barlog said that they are actually taking cues, and this is great news to me, taking cues from Elden Ring in terms of the world telling the story and breaking away from that formula. Because these guys are very expert storytellers, and I think there's a half-life on this formula that Sony has deployed really well, but they're going to advance it considerably. And Elden Ring, which I'm playing right now, which I know I'm late in the game, but I can honestly say it is one of the most mesmerizing games and engrossing games I've ever played in my life. And I'm torn between that, and I'm playing Resident Evil 4, which is brilliant. Resident Evil 4 is so good now. It was good on the GameCube, but now for me,
because we make a game 100 times, and it's going to be a Game of the Year contest. It's like one of those Resident Evil 4 is one of those titles that just hits every single time, no matter how many times you release it. It's a fantastic game. It's fantastic.
It is fantastic, and I when I go day one GameCube, we had to have it. I was a bit disappointed in that, and I've said this before, like the scares weren't that scary, but now because of the visual upgrade, it's like I'm a bit torn. I want new stories to be told, and I want retreads of games, but now with the power of these consoles, they are really pulling you in to the direction that the developers had in their minds when they created these games. So the game is now more engrossing, the audio is more immersive, the visuals are more well-defined, and it's just such a good experience, and it's much smoother. I'm playing on Series X, Acer, and I'm not feeling... So the first thing I did was like this. I was like, okay, I don't feel anything. It's not that bad. I can feel it. But this controller is such a piss take. I think Xbox need to be sued for their Elite controllers. This is the third Elite controller of mine, which has had problems. The right bumper, which is No, I've got a little bit of stick drift, but more than that, the right bumper doesn't always work. So I'm playing Elden Ring, which is primary attack is right bumper, and some bits won't work, and I'm just like, frick, what the hell?
That's bad.
So,
For a game like that, one button prop that don't pay attention.
100%. That's the difference between life and death.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be subject to a class action lawsuit. They're already pending, or one is happening, but they need to be sued for that, or they need to.
Have you guys notice it's like controllers across the board, like stick drift? Like before, people think like Nintendo stick drift, but some of the controls on PlayStation stick drift buttons. It's like it's almost common. Like, is there like a common component that they all share that's causing
there
this?
is actually, yeah, 100%.
Is there?
Yeah.
It just seems like doesn't matter the brand or the company, you're gonna get stick drift.
There are these new ones called Hall sensors that use magnets instead of what's the commonly been used.
Oh yeah,
and
I've heard of that.
Those who know have been replacing their controller, their sticks with the Hall sensors, and that solves the problem completely.
Really?
Right? It's just at this point, as a platform, are you going to be incorporating that magnetic protocol into yours? If not, it's only a matter of time until you get stick drift. They all get it. Doesn't matter if you're PlayStation, Xbox, the Switch, they all get it. So there are a few third parties now that you can buy that come with Hall sensors, and then you straight. But yeah, it's a problem across the board. Yeah, definitely across the board.
Because I'm noticing it's just common now. Like I'm hearing it from everything that at this point went beyond Nintendo. Is just controller. You know it's bad when they be like, "Hey, we got a great idea. We'll allow you to remove the joystick and buy a new one." Like, well, that's not a solution.
Yeah, they do that on purpose to make you buy
more controllers. What's the solution? What is this?
Yeah.
Changing brakes on the
then
car
the replacement pieces are almost as much as the controller itself, which is like, what are we doing here?
At this point, I'm rotating tires on a controller. Like, what are we doing?
Basically.
This ain't a solution. Like, what?
They need to fix that. They need to fix. It's an expensive mistake that I'm bearing the brunt of. I'm out of the warranty period, and I'm tempted to literally raise a complaint. I know Microsoft's support have been really good. So in the past, I've been out of their warranty period. So hopefully they may, take notice. But this is like highly inconvenient and just not good enough. So fix that stuff. But yeah, no, it's not just stick drift, chat. It's the right bumper as well. It just doesn't. It's just
my Elite 1. The right bumper was just like trash. After a few days, like I'd say, I had replaced it once or twice, and then after a while, the bumpers just gave up the ghost. The new Elite 2 has better bumpers, but yeah, the stick drift.
Stick drift is still happening.
It's a problem.
That's pathetic. That needs to be fixed. It's ridiculous. They've had so many iterations on that. Anyway, just to complete, I'll replay actually, we'll talk about that next. But before we do that, let me read these super chats. Thank you so much, everyone, for your super chats. Yash with a $2 super chat. He goes £2. Sorry, wrong country. What a panel! Brilliant. Portrock keeping it real. NGL, of course. Portrock always keeps it real, even if some of the Xbox guys will not like what he says. Alvin with a $5 super chat. Working overtime today. Waiting to play Diablo 4 tonight. Thankfully, Go Live is making the workday go smoother. Oh, that's wicked to hear. Great panel today. Sauce. I hope you liked the sauce video yesterday. It was very extra saucy. El Greco 17 with the NOK 20. You guys are my favorite bunch. Love the show. And hi, that's very, very nice of you to say, man. And I hope we carry on staying in your good graces. Nick Gers. I shouldn't have read that. Sorry. That's probably a slur with a $5 super chat. It goes, imagine ponies pushing Final Fantasy 16 after all the shit Square Enix had dropped, but turn around saying Bethesda has to prove themselves after Fallout 76. Do you want to handle this for this? Well, actually, I don't think we should entertain a super chat from a name that's a slur like that. Sorry, and apologies, I didn't read that properly. Mandinka McThickens with a $2 super chat. He goes, hate content says the pony. Oh, the irony. Mandinka, you could say the same thing about me. He's talking about you, Portrock, but me and you also swim the source. So Mandingo, I'm just as liable as Portrock. Hate content. It's not even hate content. I think with Portrock, we are sincere. Whatever we say, as crazy as it sounds, as emotive as it is, I think me and you, unlike a Reforge, me and you are sincere in what we say. We are not, and that's why I have you on here, because I'm like, I've been on 3-4 shows with you. Been on your show, been with you on Blaze. You came on ours last time, and now you're here again. Thank you. Is it hate content? It's something. Would you say that it's sincere?
I would say so. I'll use an example. I'll even use so there was one Xbox guy that complained about Halo Infinite getting forged and all this other stuff after the fact. So now he has to go back, resubscribe to Game Pass, and he's like, now I gotta pay 10 times the amount that I paid before just to play the updates. And I'm thinking, I'm trying to do the math. I'm like, 10 times the amount. He's gotta pay $600, or I just. And then I realized this dude played Halo Infinite for $1, didn't keep subscribing, and now he's gotta go back, resubscribe for $10. So he's pissed off that he had to go back and play the game for $10. Like, you can't make this up. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you're mad because you have to resubscribe and pay $10 just to, like, well, what are we doing here? Like, technically speaking, Halo is supposed to keep you in Game Pass month to month to month, and you enjoy all these updates over the course of the span. You're complaining that you have to cough up another $10 because it should have been there day one for the $1 that, like, come on, man, I ain't got time for this.
And
that's
what was the guy's name?
And that got popular.
Yeah, I think I saw that video too.
He was in the source video. He was in the source video.
Yeah, and that even blows my mind. Like, how many people like agreed? I'm like, ridiculous. Wow, this
a lot of stupid people in the world.
$1. Like, get out of
here. I mean, it's hate content is like divisive. Look, Portrock's definitely, you are definitely PlayStation. I'm definitely Xbox centric. There's no denying that. But and often in, like Asa, you always said, this is a meta game almost. The commentary, rivalry, it's like two sports teams, and it will always be that. The content will be, as long as it's sincere, it's funny. Sometimes people do it just for the comedy. People don't realize how much of the source content is self-deprecating as well. I put the rap on earlier of me, and it was like cringe. Then I was like,
whoa. Yeah, like, you know, you got to do it for the show.
But it's also just showing. Look, I'm saying I'm on medication. It's crazy. This guy's mental. What is he doing? He's sweating on camera. But people don't understand that in the console space.
You have like a water bottle, like somebody preps you, like.
That's not water, bro.
That's your real sweat.
Yep. It's like when one day, if this becomes big, I have a PA spraying some water around me, just like cool down, little towel. But yeah, come on. It's just. Jeremy says there's a difference between hate and salt. I've chilled with Portrock enough times to know that. That's not just blind hate, but we'll always disagree. That's the thing. We'll have dialogues with people we believe we can have dialogues with, and there's no hate. There's no hate. Hate's a strong word. Shout out to 530 people watching. Smash that like button. We have so much to get through. Or Alvin with a $2 super check. Dreamcast use stick magnets. Never had any drift. Sante, you're a Sega guy, or Everborn is more than you, but like,
yeah, I'm a Dreamcast guy. Sure, yes. I'm not the Dreamcast guy, but I'm a Dreamcast guy. Yes, yes. They had that was the original way to do it, right? You use magnets so it offsets and it never kind of leans in one way or another. People have been trying to save money, so they're your issues. Hopefully, we get back to that. You know,
I'm a Dreamcast guy as well, but to be fair, Dreamcast didn't last that long. To get
that's true.
I play.
There was spark.
There was spark. But man,
and then it became garbage.
The most amazing console probably that didn't last long, and it was just amazing. I love that console. It's just a shame what happened. I absolutely love Sega.
No, one of my favorites, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Short-lived though, which is why I like Xbox so much, because I feel like it took the DNA of the Dreamcast and like just incorporate it within itself.
Definitely the OG Xbox. That was like Xbox 2. OG Xbox was Dreamcast 2.
Yeah.
It was literally.
Yeah, it was.
It was a.
And that on crack, it was just like it had the 8 gig hard drive, it had Halo, it had online, really like pushed it. It was really good. Rambling Entertained with a $5 super chat. Did I miss the stream? Came to roast. I'm not reading that. Salt and sauce. Rambling Entertained. Please entertain, I guess. He called you crackhead Vin Diesel.
Wow. Okay.
I hurt his feelings.
That is terrible.
What have you done to this guy?
Hey, but thanks for the $5. Hey, like
exactly.
Said, if you're good at something, never do it for free. That's it.
Please, I will not Like the other Nick guy, that was a bit too far. I will not tolerate that, and I'm kicking myself for not even clocking it. Randy G with a $2 super chat. Gaz, you are the king pony. Not this again. What have I said to now? They're gonna disown me again. We made you, and now we will break you.
That's it. They're gonna.
I've tried to find them to ban them, but I can't. Isla, if you can.
Home.
Yeah.
Can't go home.
Oh, bro, they're fickle. They'll one day accept you, the other day they'll let go of you, which is Reforge is going to find out very soon. But yeah, let's see. How it pans out for that gentleman. Not that I overtly care. Splendor first with a $2 super chat. Don't be a fasty, Nick G, and respect the show and yourself. Agreed. That's he's actually being very nice there compared to what the gentleman did. Jonas the dad with a $2 super chat. Mech Salt on OG Xbox was dope online. Was killer. We need to see what happened to Mech Salt. Why can't we get another Mech Salt game, man?
I don't know.
I hear it's because it's in like legal limbo. It's kind of like 007. They can't make it because somebody owns the rights to this and somebody owns the publishing to that, and so they don't even want to bother anymore. Yeah, but people still keep asking for it. People still like it. So
I think there's
one day
room for it. Yeah. Hopefully soon. So Diablo 4 open beta impressions. It's out. If you probably struggle to get on because of the massive queues yesterday, I was greeted with it and I said, nope, I'm going to quit this because I know tomorrow it will be fine. And it was. It's like a 1 minute wait and you're in. Which one of you gents have you played? Have you played it, Paul Truck? No. What about you, Case?
I have. Yeah. I was actually playing it maybe 20 minutes ago before we started the show. So I had a very interesting time with it, and I frauded on Twitter. First, I'm enjoying myself. I create a great character, and you get in there, and the queues were just like monstrous. And I played it on PC because I got a 3080. Like to play it there most often than not. Why? Because usually I'm working, and it's easier to do it just here. So try to do that. 80 some odd minute wait times, right? And then as soon as you jump in, game crashes and back to 80 something minutes.
It's like World of Warcraft all over again. At least you kept it in
me
the
on
queue.
Twitter. Yeah. So I'm on Twitter going, nope, I'm done. No more of this crap. And then shout out to Palm Soul. He pinged me at like midnight going, by the way, if you want to jump in now, it's like a minute wait. So I happen to be literally going to bed and I see this message. I'm like, maybe I'll try it out, 3 hours later, I went to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. But no, it's so addictive. It is so good, so good. And I know people are like, oh, it's more of a Diablo 2 versus 3, and maybe because I didn't spend that much time with Diablo 2 and more with 3. I see it treads on the same ground, but just has far more better graphic fidelity. Like you can really. The cloth and everything is very detailed. You can zoom into things. It's just very good, and it's brutal. Like the combat is hardcore, more than most that I have seen in the Diablo verse. So as of right now, I get a minute here and there. Wait times and all that. They had some issues with I think NVIDIA cards in the beginning, so that's why there was crashing. But now they fixed that. So yeah, all I'm saying is I hope and pray that when this is all said and done and it's out in the zeitgeist and everybody can just play it, that this whole wait time thing is not par for the course for this stuff. Like I need to be able to play it as if it's mine and without having to wait in the queue. I know we're in the beta phase, and this comes with beta and I expect that, but hopefully when this is all said and done and you put your hard-earned money down, it doesn't go, okay, now you got to wait for 20 minutes. Like that's a little bit,
I think the educated guess on this part would be expect at launch of the game day one issues, because Diablo always has day one issues. Yeah. But after that, I'm hoping for a smooth experience as well.
Yeah. And I hope that if that becomes a thing, if that's really a thing, that the pitchforks come out, because we need them to then add an offline mode.
Oh, bro. With Diablo and Blizzard community, the pitchforks are already
let the pitchforks come out. Always. They did that with the auction house on Diablo 3. And they removed that. If these wait times become an issue, get them pitchforks out. Let's add an offline mode here. But so far, it's awesome. I think. Yeah,
I think it's great as well. We'll touch upon the offline thing in a bit. But Asa, what's your experience with the game?
I am probably going to stand alone and upset everybody by saying that I think Diablo 3 is a better game so far.
Wow!
Solely because. And I've said many times that Diablo 3 was like pretty much the only game ever that is better on console than it is on PC. because they changed the controls. They changed a lot about the design, and they gave you a roll button. I loved rolling through all the pots and shit. And I played Diablo 4 with a controller, but Diablo 4 isn't a console experience. So you can play it on console. I'm not saying people on console are having a bad time, but it has not been refined for a controller in the way that Diablo 3 was. And I find that a little bit jarring, because I don't like a 5-second cooldown on my dodge, and I don't like the way that the targeting is still very PC centric. Like, it feels like you're playing a PC game when you're trying to pop up corpses and all the rest of it. On the plus side, it does look stunning. I love what they've done with the art style. I love what they've done with the atmosphere. It is dripping with atmosphere, but when it comes out, they're going to cut through that atmosphere with battle passes and cosmetics. So it leaves me really like.
Okay, so it wasn't just me, because I was like, did they always have a 5-second cooldown on roll or dash?
No, so the PC version of Diablo 3 didn't have a roll at all. That was part of its console balancing. But it made the game better. The roll was great. So I'm sad that they've taken it out. And you can still use the dash thing, and you can smash all your pots and stuff, as I so love to do. I just like, the engine actually has really good physics. So if you are smashing things, it all breaks in a really satisfying way, and it sounds great when you do it. But then you have to wait 5 seconds to do it again, and it makes me sad. I just want to smash everything.
The game I played, Diablo 3, it was like very recently, like 6 months ago, my first Diablo game, and was hooked. Me and my friend Dean were playing it, and me and my friend Dean were playing this one. And he didn't like the art style initially, because Diablo 3, if I remember correctly, was more colorful. This game, very dark, and the story is pretty dark. Lots of fleshy bits, lots of sacrificial flesh. Guys like chained up because more. It's like getting it. Like, what is this? This is like some satanic ritual. The game, and I've got a necromancer as my class, which is brilliant because you just blow up bodies, which is so much fun. But the visual fidelity of it is great. The audio is great, the physics and stuff. Like, there was a skeleton that's like sitting there. I'm like, why is a skeleton sitting there like it's watching TV? It looked really weird, and I just touched it and it broke. Or my friend did, and it broke in real time for both of us. We were just laughing. The game's just, the big question mark. The big question mark is this battle pass thing, because that is where this kid all goes to shit. And and I'm very worried about that. Just like, what is going to happen there? But the story, like, I didn't care for the story that much. I was struggling to follow the story in Diablo 3, but now with this one, very hooked. The cinematics are really good. The game's engine, despite being in an top-down dungeon crawler, it looks great. Like, when they switch to the cutscenes, looks great.
Makes you want to zoom in, but then of course the monsters come at you. You don't even see where they're coming. You can zoom into it while you go, but then it's not good for the gameplay. But it's very.
Oh, you can zoom in a little bit.
Yeah. The button that you press to emote and talk to people, you can actually zoom in, and it stays zoomed in. The problem with that, though, is of course then you're this close to the screen, and then the monsters come at you, and you're screwed. But it's actually really, really good. But to Ace's point, like, I think that may be its Achilles heel. In previous iterations, they release it on PC first, get all the PC-ness out of it, and then they rebalance it for console. And that's why, like, I think, was it the Resurrected version? I think it's the Diablo 3 called. That one has different features. Yeah. But because they're releasing it first on everywhere, and of course it's based on the Diablo Immortal engine, which I knew they would do that, it seems like it's great for PC, but not absolutely perfectly honed for everything else. It's just kind of like a happy medium that we're going to do for everybody, but the console people will feel it a little bit. Some of the placement of where their stuff is, and and the cooldown issues. Yeah, I think maybe that may be where people need to start bitching and complaining a little bit.
Did you play it keyboard and mouse?
That much.
No, I did not play keyboard and mouse. I played it with a controller. So yeah.
I played it with a controller. I didn't find the issues.
Controller is just better. Yeah.
So you're a necromancer like I am, though, so you must know, like, the targeting when you're trying to target a corpse. If there is one, it auto-hones it for you, but it feels and visually looks like you're supposed to be clicking on things, like most of the spells do. And it's because mechanically it's just not been changed in the same way that 3 was, and that's not going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people, because it looks great and it plays okay on a controller, and a lot of people are going to carry on having fun. Like KSant is playing on the PC and has chosen to use a controller anyway. I was playing on a PC and I chose to use a controller anyway, so it's not terrible. I just miss some of the things that they did for Diablo 3 that I enjoy it. I like rolling. I like
You
smashing
are
things.
correct about the targeting stuff. The targeting stuff, absolutely, because like I had to like stop my mind from actually targeting myself, because if you target yourself, then you should be using a mouse, right? On the controller, it just screws up the targeting. If you don't target yourself, then it auto targets for you and hits the next thing you want, which is not really how I want to do it, but it's the best way to do it on the controller, right?
Yeah.
So they definitely do have some work to do with making it good for console players. Otherwise, it's just going to be auto targeting everywhere, which is
it's not the end of the world though. It's just very much like because a lot of people were, like you said before, a lot of people were unhappy with Diablo 3 and the changes that it made. A lot of people really wanted it to play more like Diablo 2. This one definitely is sticking more to its PC heritage and doing that. So it's not that they're delivering what a lot of people want. But I personally quite like the console version of Diablo 3, and I can't help it. Gaz, you played a Necromancer, didn't you? I played a Necromancer and was blasting through on it's only got the 2 difficulty settings available. When you put it on the hard one and you blast through everything, spamming your A button, and it auto targets and kills everything for you. You have your 4 skeletal warriors, and in the entire time that I played, I think one of them might have died once. But I've heard that some of the other classes, some of the other classes potentially are. So it might be that we've both chosen a wildly imbalanced, overpowered class to begin with. But how are you finding the actual the moment to moment though, the combat and things? Are you actually enjoying it, or is it going to get repetitive over time?
Well, when the game first started, it's a good question, because when the game first started, me and my friend Dean were like, why do they do this game? I know that they want to make you feel player progression and you feel really underpowered, but the game almost demands that you go through the boring parts where you don't get the abilities, and it's just spamming A. But very quickly, in the space of a couple of hours, I built up those powers. And the talent tree is really interesting as well, because you unlock about 2 more talents, then you can move down the next bit. And within those talents, you can either hone in and refine that one power, or you can go and get other ones. And I think that kind of mechanic will really help. And also the visual feedback on some things as well. Like if you've enhanced like the blood lance a little bit, you can tell that visually it's like getting stronger. It's all about to me, Diablo is like crack. It's almost like, what was that other game, that really simple game, Vampire Survivors.
Vampire Survivors,
yeah. What did you say?
You said Halo.
Quick question.
Gaz always wants to talk about Halo, but
Hazel, quick question. So you said that a certain community wanted it more back for Diablo 2. Was that primarily the PC community? Because I could see Diablo 3 was really the consoles game's introduction on their platform. It was well made, and since it's well made, console gamers like, oh, I like the game. It is what it is. But the PC gamers whose heritage was 1, 2, did you see a situation where the PC gamers were very vocal, bring it back to the Diablo 2, but Blizzard didn't consider? We hear you, but what about the console gamers? Because they're quiet, but they may not realize. You think there's a lack of consideration for console gamers because the console gamers didn't say anything?
No, so the Diablo, it has a very strong, very vocal fan base. And when Diablo 3 came out, before it was even on consoles, people were already critical because they looked at the way that you could slot only 6 skills or whatever and said, hey, you're making this for a controller, we hate you, and got all up in arms.
It's a PC-centric.
It is a very, very vocal community, and they are getting what they want, which is arguably the best thing that the studio can do. You want them to give those people what they want. I just would have liked that separation for controller mode myself.
Wouldn't it be hilarious? Diablo 4 comes out. All right, got it. And then a few years later, all the console guys are now upset. We want 3 back. And now Blizzard has to play this. All right, 1 year PC centric, the next year console centric. And now they go back and forth for every iteration to appease a specific fan base. Back and forth instead of trying to find a way.
Mostly just me medium. Though. I think I'm pretty much, like I said at the start, I think I'm probably going to upset both sets of fans by saying this.
Maybe you know how console gamers are. They don't know they don't like something until maybe after a little while, and then 2-3 years from now, they're like, "Man, this is so hard on a controller. Why?" I
mean, Mr. Boomstick said exactly the same thing you did. They love Diablo, but they missed the Diablo 3-ness. They missed the console flavor of it. So you're not the first person I've heard say that. So. I suspect that will be an outcry that grows more as we go beyond the beta phase and it comes into consoles. People will probably say similar.
So we got interesting.
Just a spark. Eventually, it's going to be a wildfire. But remember this day. You are the spark.
Blaze, thank you so much for the $20 super chat, man. That's crazy. He goes, Doc on the show. Let's go.
Yeah,
my guy.
Yo.
My guy, P-Rock. Good show, fellas. All hail King Asa. And thanks for that, Blaze. It's not Doc.
Sorry, baby.
I love Blaze, man. We got Ono to Alex in the chat. Hey, so what do you make of this? He goes, Diablo 3 was the mobile version of Diablo prior to Immortal, and Diablo 4 feels like Diablo 3.5.
So it didn't feel mobile, it felt like the console version, but I know Alex is a big fan of Path of Exile and stuff. I'd be curious what he's thinking of Diablo 4, actually, as more of a PC gamer himself. But
he's got a video out on it, so yeah. His impressions.
But, like, people were, like I say, the Diablo community were very critical of 3 when it came out.
Yeah, they were. They definitely were. And Harry Go Lucky in chat says Diablo 4 feels like an apology for Immortal in much the same way the new World of Warcraft expansion is. I don't know anything about the new WoW expansion. Is that really good? Has that got people back in?
A lot of people. I know Jez Corden's a big fan of the new World of Warcraft expansion.
He won't stop talking about it. Yes.
I think it's the first Blizzard game that I can remember ever having a bad cinematic. I fired it up and watched the cinematic and was like,
wow,
what has happened
That's
here?
Surprising.
It's boring.
Yeah, so their cinematics are amazing. Sometimes I just watch them when I'm bored. They're so good. Like Diablo's cinematic at the start was really good. Like I just told the story, it was pretty messed up and it's really good. I love dark storytelling, so it was really good. So yeah, Diablo 4 is looking like it's promising, but there's a big question mark around obviously the things we talked about in the mechanically and consoles, but also the big battle pass curse, which I think gamers are just becoming really intolerant of. Oh no, Alex says we hated 3. Yes, definitely with the store front there, that was very, very just not even divisive. It was just bad, just
fully egregious. Yes,
just shunned. Yeah, very egregious. Thanks for helping me finish that sentence. Shout out to 583 people watching the show. Smash that like button. Resident Evil 4, finally. We got the reviews that came out last week. Massively just brilliant. 93 Metacritic, glowing praise across the board. And I finally played it and it's great. Have any of you gents played Resident Evil 4, the remake? Or should I just skip the top?
I played the demo. I enjoyed the demo, but it's one of those things. If I've played that game so many times, it is as Porter Rock is saying, it's on the list. It will get played, but I got to get the Hogwarts monkey off the back first, man. Gotta finish it.
I got that. I got to do Dead Space as well, which I was loving. I was skipping between Dead Space and Resident Evil 4. And they're very different. Well, they're both survival horror games, but the movement style is very different. And I thought I wouldn't like Resident Evil 4 after playing, like skipping between the two with quick play, whatever it's quick resume. And Resident Evil 4 holds up very well compared to Dead Space. They're both great games. I wouldn't even dare answer if you put those two, because which one would you pick? I can't answer that question. Because I really, at the moment, I can't. Great games, and I'm itching to play it. So once the show is done, I'm playing that. Obviously, once the timestamps are done, people don't come at me because I'll be like, "Where's the timestamp?"
Come at you for timestamps,
bro. They come at you 1 minute after the show ends. Where the flip side? I was like, "What? It's impossible for me to do timestamps this quick."
You have to do it while you're doing the show. Like write it down, timestamp. Right.
Yeah, I know. I can barely concentrate on anything. Man. So the next topic is Redfall. We've got a lot to talk about, including the big ABK topic. But before that, let's get the good, fun, juicy bits out of the way. Redfall was in the news actually for quite a few different things. But the previews, let's talk about that. Now, what we are expecting on the show. I'm kind of getting a good idea of where it's coming. This one's going to land. We've got previews. Our good friend Cole Eastwood, good friend of Porter Rock, he also previewed Redfall.
I'm still trying to convince him to hire my brother for his show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Get
Dog. He loved Dog Dog. He loved Dog Dog when he was doing the controller, the jump button thing. But he'd be like, wait a minute, that's not Dog Dog, that's Porter Rock.
And that's going to be the trick.
Yeah, do that. Trojan horse, the Trojan pony.
I just need a tank top.
Get a tank top, yeah. Oh, man. But the Redfall previews are out. and generally positive. So I'll just summarize. Like Colt played it, he said it was really good, really enjoyed it, but he didn't go as far as God is a Geek, the publication went. They said Redfall has already, they called it a Game of the Year contender, and I'm like, I wouldn't go that far based on what I've seen. I haven't played it, but they said it's done enough to convince the writer or the previewer. After playing a few hours, he said it's a combination of all that Arcane has learned from Dishonored and Deathloop, but mixed in with a supernatural narrative and fantastic shooting, and that's going to be the clincher here, how good the gunplay is in this game. So they're quite positive about it. Whereas PC Gamer, well, on the other side of it, said, whilst it's defined by its unique vampire assailants, because I think that's a big highlight of it, is big concern was this going to be Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood clone, just loads of mindless zombies at you, and then that's not the case because the vampires have their own characteristics, and they say it's very unique, it's fun playing it. But they said solo, the game feels incomplete. It just doesn't, like, the story's okay, doesn't feel that like. To be honest, I didn't. And I've said this multiple times. You know this, chat, if you watch our show, that this game was made for co-op. I don't care what they say. They've only put co-op. I'm convinced they put single player in there because of their heritage, because other people are like, oh, you're going for the gas live service, whatever kind of model. But this game is a co-op game, in my opinion, and PC Gamer says that, and the preview says, I think Redfall will really come alive with a group of players. The intention of co-op combat and a ragtag group of heroes shouting excitedly at each other seems to lurk behind the entire world and its combat encounters. So it's looking like it's a solid game. It's not bad, which is good because Microsoft cannot afford to have bad games now. Really can't. And I've always said 84 meta, probably 82, 84. But Portrock, looking at this, and we'll go into the controversy around it as well. But before that, when you look at this game, are you excited to play it, or are you interested in it? What do you think about the game generally?
So I think from its first introduction, I always saw it as, it's going to be a co-op game. It always gave that feel, I don't want to say use this as a negative, like Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood, but it's in that genre, got a group of guys, a team of 4, you have an objective, take out lots of monsters of various type. It's good to hear that with the vampires, they could be more unique as compared to a bunch of zombies, because zombies and stuff is just a drag. If they could really pull off getting unique characters, unique vampires, different strategies to separate itself, not just a skin, an actual, I think that would be pretty good. But I think people really need to look at it as a co-op game. Sure, it has a single player mode, but if you go in with the intention, expecting a good or, a well-defined single player experience, that's where you might set yourself up. I think this is more of a co-op experience first and foremost, and people should treat it that much. I'm not looking too much into it, because generally I don't look forward too much a lot of co-op games. Like Gotham Knights, I didn't look forward to it. Suicide Squad, everybody knows how I feel about that game. That ain't happening, stuff like that. But in general, for the people who are looking for a co-op game, I think this is a good one, especially if you did enjoy Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood. I think this game might be even more appealing if they could get a unique traits of the vampires, because I think that's what it's going to be. You mentioned it earlier, gunplay and the unique traits of a vampire could make this a really incredible experience, especially if they get the co-op partnership rights where people can actually pick choosing characters and they can rely on each other's strength. I think that will work well.
That's the magic formula there. Those three things working together.
Good gunplay.
Because what you're alluding to, go ahead.
Yeah, good gunplay, good unique characters with the vampires, so that way they don't feel like zombies, but with vampire skin. Make them unique. They're vampires. Let them do vampire things. Let them fly, disappear, all of a sudden they're in front of your face, and good cast of characters that complement each other. Because I know there's like some, I will say there's like Godfall, right? Not very well made game. One of the problems is it doesn't matter which character you use.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So it's really, so you don't want 4 of the same character. You want to have that unique trait to where when you team up, hey, somebody needs to be this character, because it ain't going to work if we don't have these, special abilities. So I think you get that down right, it'll be fine. It'll be a good game for the community. That's interesting.
I think so. I question its longevity. I think it'll be forgotten about after about a month. But it's one of those, like, I'll be pleasantly surprised if it doesn't. It has that more depth to it. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because it could be I'm expecting a solid fun game, and there seems to be a lot more depth than I thought it would have. But even a month of just enjoyable experience with your friends, it'll leave a good impression. It doesn't need to be a game that you need to play, come back to. But if it does offer that longevity with the weapons, because they have 2 additional heroes coming in the future in the DLC, and then they have lots of weapon stuff, and if they promise more future content, if it surprises in that way, I'll be like, wow, okay, that's exceeding my expectations. My expectations are pretty reasonable in my opinion. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. Enemy design, character design, and how the powers complement each other in co-op, and fundamentally weapon design and how it feels to control shoot those weapons. They look good. But let's see.
One more point is, and you bring a good question, is also the intention behind this game. Is this game a legit gas game, or is it just a multiplayer co-op game? Because that's a fine line, right? Like one of the fine lines, I'll use Godfall reference it again. I see Godfall as a half-ass gas game. It seemed like maybe that was the intention, but they didn't fully commit, and because of that, the game died. I mean, they launched the game without matchmaking, which I thought was really weird. So I bought the game day one. The only way I was able to play with other people is if I invite them, and there was only like 4 people on my friends list that even had the game. So it was like, man, this game's gonna go to the trash.
Yeah,
like, this game has no hope. So what do they want to do? Like commit? In my opinion, like if
this is not a gas game.
Co-op game, then let the people know, like, hey, this is a multiplayer co-op game. We'll probably do some DLC, but don't treat this like Destiny 2. Because if you do, then you're gonna have people complaining in 2 weeks. We want new content.
No, it's not like that. It's not like that. In their interview, when they talked about it, Arkanoskin explained, like, this is a bit of a unique game. They kind of overshot their aims. Like, they should have either been a co-op game or a single player game. Ultimately, they ended up with both, and it's not really a gas game. It's really a fully like, it's an Arkanoskin game with co-op, with a story, with an ending, with the promise of more future DLC. But based on what they've said, it's going to be a fully fleshed out game. They're not dangling the gas elements, as far as I'm aware, but they have future content in play. So it's like, it's one of those. It's quite unique. It's like it's Arcane Austin, the studio that gave us Dishonored. They gave us Prey, and they give us this co-op shooter, and it feels like their DNA is still in there. So it's quite unique. It's a quite unique game. But what about you, Asante? Are you looking forward to it? Is this hitting the right notes? Have you read the previews?
So yeah, I've watched a bunch of the previews. I watched the man Colt Eastwood, his preview take on it.
Really good.
And I will come into this saying I am an Arcane fan through and through. I've played all of their games. I think Arcane has not made a bad game, even though they may not get the high heights that the critical mass of the community that people expect them to at this point. I don't see a game that they've made that was less than or that needed more work. They're really, really good, right? And they're very much a sandbox kind of game developer, where they set up the stakes, they let you handle it any way you want, and it's you in that world, and you can do crazy things in that world. They've always been very good at that. But I tend to be a person that attacks those games as a single player gamer. I tend to just in general be more of a single player gamer, right? Because, dad life, you ain't got time to be asking people to go hang out with you. I will play it when I play it, because more often than not, I don't have time to be doing that during the day and all that, right? So, coming into it, like you guys.
In my opinion, though, you might not enjoy it as a result of that point. Reality.
That's where I'm going with it. Coming into it, they're trying to very much emphasize that this is the Arcane and love, but they added drop in, drop out co-op, which is cool. And I'll take them at their word until I play it. But as you guys are talking about it now, and you're absolutely right, they have made the characters super unique, right? And every character works with another character to really accomplish the tasks at hand. So it makes it difficult to see how you can be one character and still take on the entire game by yourself without it feeling like you're missing other components, because you need those other characters in order for it to kind of be that team, that co-op team you're looking for. So I'm still going into it saying that Arcane has not made a bad game. And to me, I love Dishonored 1, love Dishonored 2, love all the DLCs. I love Prey. They know how to, and even like Deathloop and all of them, they know how to come at you with a specific genre, but you'll be remiss if you think that's all that's there. right?
Yeah.
Because they'll surprise you, right? And I always say Deathloop, people complain about the combat, right? It's not about the combat. It's a people puzzle. You have to figure out what the aim of the game is with all the time powers and all of that, like the going back and forth in time. So I expect to see differences here that aren't immediately apparent. I expect to see, because that's what Arcane does. They show you something, but it tends to be a sleight of hand a little. There's a lot more depth to it than you'll initially see. So, but everyone is saying that, look, this is a co-op game through and through. So we'll see how it goes, right? Like, and you would think that if it's a co-op game through and through, they would add AI companions with you, but they didn't.
But they didn't.
They let you go in there all by yourself. So I'm still holding out hope, but this might be me coming back at some point talking about, well, there's the one that they missed, in my humble opinion.
And
so far,
I don't think this will be a miss. I don't think this will.
No, I don't think so either. I love the characters. I love how they're realistic but stylized. I love the way the world is. I lived in Boston for a while, so them shooting it in Massachusetts area, I'm like, that's quite interesting. So all of it speaks to me. It looks great. The co-opness of it kind of makes me go a little bit, but we shall see when it comes out, Yeah.
Well, the game gives you
Arcane Studio generally makes good games, generally.
Yeah, they don't miss.
I can't think of a bad game, like something that's generally agreed upon that, this is a bad Arcane. I think generally they've been doing a great job making good games.
Yeah, that's what Alvin says. And thank you, Alvin, with the $5 super chat. It goes, for 24 years since Arx Fatalis, people have been trying to prematurely put Arcane games into boxes/genres. They've always done unique games every time, and then they
absolutely.
Yeah.
See, and I was actually even ready to hate on Arcane because I am the guy who loved the original Prey that most people don't remember. Before they took Prey over, I loved that first Prey. And then they took Prey over and it wasn't a continuation of that first. And I'm just like, nope, I'm not here for that. And then I played it and I'm like, okay, never mind. It's really, really, really good. Right?
I remember the original Prey.
Yes.
Remember when it was supposed to be Cyberpunk and all of that? That was crazy as well. And they got canned. It was like, that was crazy. But yeah, that was a long time ago. Asa, what about you? Are you going to be playing? Are you excited about Redfall? I don't even know.
I really like it visually. Everything about the world looks and feels very like handcrafted. Everything is very deliberately placed, and they put a lot of effort into like every scene and every location. So I want to play it just for that. But at the same time, sometimes it looks a bit boring. Sometimes like you never see more than like 3 enemies at a time, and when there are that many, they're just like dead in one shot. Or you get like a more bullet spongy vampire that flies around. So I don't know. Like I want to know.
You have to feel it.
The scene that's on like right at this moment has a little bit more going on, but again, it's just like he's gone invisible and walking past everybody. Stealth games. I don't play stealth games. I don't know. Like I'm going to play it because I like the look of the world and I want to explore it and I want to see what's going on. I like the way everything is like lit. They've got some people there that know art and know color and have made something beautiful. So I'm going to play it. But I'm not sure how fun the combat is. So we'll see. Don't know that until you get it in your hands, really.
That's one thing. That is one thing you can at least rely on with Arcane. Even if you see them having a stealth section, you don't have to play it stealth. Like they will always give you 15 different options for the exact same mission. Hopefully that works. Hopefully
I'm unsure
you can go in guns blazing and you're fine.
I don't know if anyone has caught this across the various previews and things, but if you play it in co-op and you have 4 people, like how does it scale up? Do you get more enemies? Do they just take more bullets?
Yeah, they say it scales more. The big bads are harder to fight. There takes more bullets. There's a lot more enemies on screen. At least that was their interviews recently that I've heard them say. They scale up the thing. Now the thing that's weird about that is they do drop in, drop out co-op, and it's not tethered. So you can literally have somebody across the map on a whole different other thing, and then it makes everyone's game a lot more difficult because there's another person in that world. Even if you're not fighting the same enemy, Yeah, because they just by the virtue of multiple players being in that world, they ratchet up the difficulty and ratchet up the amount of enemies you have to fight. So that should be interesting to see. You know, you're off on doing this, somebody else off doing that in the same
just get
world,
mugged, like,
and you'll get mugged
why is
because
this so
there's a lot
hard?
more people. Yes, absolutely. You know.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see that. I like the fact that there's no tether in this game. But yeah, no, I'm actually quite excited to play this game, and I'm primarily cooperatively. For me, it's a no-brainer, and I want to play this day one with friends, with Colt and everyone, just to play. And also, the game gives you a buff. If anyone, and based on my reading of it, it suggests that because they said if you pick specific heroes or whatever they call them, and they'll have their own unique dialogue lines. The game's been marketed as 4, protagonists there. The CGI trailer showed them off talking to them. There'll be a massive focal point, the dynamic between the 4. So I find it weird that if you play a single player, that dynamic's completely gone. Completely. Yeah. So the game was initially marketed as these 4 people talking to each other. The game then gives you a positive buff for picking certain characters based on that. Unique characters. So if you have a 4-player squad, each one of you picks a different character. You'll all benefit from that buff, and then they will have unique voice lines as well. So you got a sub story being told, which you would otherwise miss if you either picked the same heroes, which I found is an odd decision, and also if you play a single player. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm quite positive about it. I'm seeing an 82 to 84 meta for this. Anything higher will be a pleasant surprise. I know Metacritic is a very abstract thing. It's not an effective way of really gauging things, but for the sake of conversation, I'll use it. So I'm just sitting there. An 84 is a optimistic 84, which is a good score for a game like that.
So question, obviously it's on Game Pass, so it's very easy to go and play. If it wasn't on Game Pass, would you be thinking like, yeah, I'd buy that, or how would it fall?
70 quid? I'll be honest with you, for 70 quid...
I can see it in his face.
I would be a bit... Yeah, no, I don't think... Then my demands would be a little... See, this is the thing with Game Pass, makes it a lot more palatable, but 70 quid for a game, then it's something I would... Normally, I mean, now we have people expect us to play the games and we have to stump up the money. We don't usually get that many review codes, although we might get one for this, but I would be like, all right, my expectations would be a little bit higher for that price point. I know it's a bit odd thing to say, but it's a lot of money, and I expect a lot more game now as a result of that price point. And my expectations would be higher, and then I would probably perhaps listen to a combination of my friends' reviews and just general sentiment. Now that's how I usually dictates my buying habits.
What about same question though for KSNT? Like, would you buy it?
It being an Arcane game, I would lean towards it because, like I said, I own every Arcane game and they tend to be really brilliant. I enjoy them. But of course, as Gaz is saying, right, I would want a couple of reviews in. I'm not, and shout out to Everborn Saga, my partner in podcasting. He always says, if you end up playing a game day one, you usually lose because patches haven't come out yet, all that. Once you pay much later, you get the best experience ever, which is true, right? So I most likely would wait until the dust settles on how folks think about it, because if it is a game that's lackluster, unless played in co-op, that would be less likely that I'll be buying that day one, right? So, but I still appreciate most of the games Arcane makes, like all of them, I should say. I've never played a bad one. So more often than not, being that it's from them and it's their pedigree, I most likely would buy into it, unless it was like, oh yeah, don't even try this if you're a single player gamer. Then I might not jump in.
Also, I will say I bought Deathloop at full price day one, and it was a great game. I just never went to complete it. And same with Prey. And so I need to go back to those games, but that's one of the reasons why I wouldn't stump up 70 immediately, because they're Arcane Austin's games, which I know they're time sinks. Once I'm done, it's one of those games, in my opinion, you have to, not this game, but for instance, Deathloop, you just need to just play that and nothing else. Just a drop in, drop out. You can't really do that, otherwise you'll stop.
Yeah, specifically with Deathloop, it's difficult. Yeah, you'll lose the thread on who's supposed to be where. Like,
I have no idea now.
You can't do that. Yeah, with Deathloop specifically. Yeah,
and that's
like a rogue type game. That's why. And once you start a rogue game, you have to see it through, because it's true. If you stop a rogue game for a while, half the thing is memory. and being
especially Deathloop, lack of memory, and that's the premise of the game. And it's just like I have no idea now. I have no idea where I am in the game or who the characters were. I don't remember. So it's one of those. That's one of the reasons why typically I'd be like, not on the side of caution, but Redfall I'm really looking forward to. So like maybe perhaps I would stump it up. This generation normally I don't just pre-order games, but I pre-ordered Resident Evil 4 and I pre-ordered Diablo 4. Like I don't know why I did that. I just did it.
The FOMO got you. Go ahead.
To support the devs.
The FOMO got you.
Yeah, support the devs. Yeah, that's what it was.
They got kids to feed, guys.
Yeah. I just did it. I just thought
because you're Gaz and you love battle passes. Did you get the £100 skip through 20 levels of the battle pass edition? Good.
No, I didn't pre-order Redfall. No, I did Red thingy. Diablo 4. Oh yeah. No, I think I got. Actually, I don't even know what I got. I think I got the base one. It's like 70 quid or 65 pounds. Base one. Okay, fine.
Diablo has a £70 base version, a £90 deluxe version, and a £100 ultimate version, which is the one that they show you first and foremost on the storefronts. Is the £100 version?
Of course they do.
And it comes with 20 skipped levels of battle pass, and it's just like,
that's silly.
You're paying to not play the game. That's fantastic.
That's pretty much it. You can skip playing the game and now you're level 20. You have no idea what to do with it because you never played the game. So you got all these powers and you're like, what do I do all this stuff?
No powers. You get a shiny horse or something. Like it's battle pass levels.
Oh man! But on another note on Redfall, Portrock, Redfall was being worked on PlayStation. Microsoft Store.
Hey, Aza, you got any more wine? Oh my
None
God.
to spare.
What do you make of this? So many people. MBG was crying, literally. He was like, what's going on? You take a game for way they bought the company, man. What's going on? Come on, give me your take on it. Did Microsoft actually steal it? Is Phil Spencer lying?
So I think so. There's two different conversations, in my opinion. So the one part, when any first party acquires a developer studio, it's natural. They're doing it for a reason. They're trying to bolster up their ecosystem, their platforms, whatever devices they're concerned about. And it makes sense, That's it. Like when Microsoft started going on their buying spree, they bought Ninja Theory. I was actually happy when they bought Ninja Theory, right? Because I'm a fan of Ninja Theory, so I'm looking forward to their games. But I was kind of happy. I was happy, still happy, because Ninja Theory was one of those studios that if they had one bomb, studio's gone. So as I say, like if they would have released Bleeding Edge on their own, they would have been done. We would not have Ninja Theory today. That game would have put them under, and a lot of studios are just one game, even as much as like Insomniac. Insomniac's one of those studios too. One bomb, and Insomniac's gone, but now with a bigger publisher, they could have that mistake and survive. So I was happy with Ninja Theory, Compulsion Games, Obsidian, right? All those games going to go exclusive to Xbox, makes sense. Bethesda, I'm actually a Bethesda fan, right? More than Activision, right? But when they acquired Bethesda, it didn't bother me, right? Because I always felt the philosophy, if you want to play a game, just get the platform the game is on, ignore everything else, right? And if you're one of those low-income, poor little Timmy guys, I don't know what to tell you. Do you have healthcare? And when I think of poor, I think of that stuff. I don't think of gaming's like the last thing I think of when it comes to low-income people, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me, Bethesda being bought by Microsoft. In fact, I'm hoping that Bethesda can even grow bigger and do more stuff, right? But with purchasing Bethesda, obviously there's going to be projects that initially was going to be on PlayStation, and they're no longer on PlayStation. And that's a natural, situation that's going to happen. That's what's going to happen, right? Same thing, let's say if Sony bought Capcom, whatever plans Capcom had on Xbox, they're going to nix it. They're going to be like, you're done with that. And that's all. Yep. I think the main problem is Phil Spencer. That's really the connotation. Is he Jesus? Or is he just a CEO? That's literally, I think that's literally
Jesus.
Wow.
Jesus, what?
Or is he a textbook CEO? And that's really it, right? He portrays himself as Jesus, but your reality, your CEO, you're gonna do what's best for Xbox and stuff like that. You don't really care about PlayStation gamers on what they play, even though you do a good job of trying to say so. You don't really care. You're the CEO. You're the head of Xbox. Your job is for Xbox gamers and anybody in the Xbox ecosystem. And I think that's really what the battle is. There's people who hype him up as Jesus, and there's people that's gonna say no, he's the devil. and then that's really not really gaming topics. That's not really talking about gaming. You're talking about, I'm gonna be honest, you're probably talking about a guy who makes $10 million a year and he don't give a damn. He's like, so what's the
he's a gamer at heart. He's definitely a gamer at heart, but I agree with what you're alluding to. Asa always says this, and so do I agree with him. He has a silver tongue, and what annoys me is but I don't think he lied. I think he picks his words very carefully, but they don't do any favors because these broad statements, I think they're overblown in the console war space. Like, I thought you said Nick Moss is crying about the fact that you can't play this game. I'm like, you need to relax a little bit there. But he says, you want to play games. We're not taking away games but the Bethesda thing. That interview, really good interview did with Xbox On or something. The lady who interviewed him did an excellent job of interviewing him. And he said, as far as I'm aware, as far as Bethesda's games are concerned, we've never really taken away anything that PlayStation gamers had, and that quote has been used Starfield was in development and Redfall was in development and you've canned those, so you were lying. And a lot of people are saying he's lying, but that's wrong.
That's ridiculous.
Because they never came out. You never had Redfall on PlayStation. There's a new IP. Starfield, new IP, never had it. That's what he's alluding to. But perhaps that kind of vague wording, along with all this almost charitable, we want to give gamers for everybody and more places to play. Yes, Xbox is doing that. You can play on PC, you can play on mobile, and more than any other platform, Xbox has made its thing open, ecosystem open. But I think it winds PlayStation guys a long way. It's like, well, hold on, I'm not playing Starfield or Redfall. You took it away from me. KSRT, what's going on? He's not Jesus. Some people in chat
that is hilarious. I've never heard anybody call him Jesus, but okay. No. I think it's just people just taking, they have too much time in the day, man. This is ridiculous and unnecessary, right? To your point, as you're saying, unless the game was in video and in print and saying, hey, this is coming for you, and they've taken it away, you have nothing to say about that, right? There's a version of freaking Gears of War for PS3 that's out there. You can see it on YouTube. If you know where to find it, you can download the ISO and play it on your PS3. You can do that. But it happened, and yes, it came and left, right? Because they bought the studio, they bought the IP, and from that moment on, you're out of there. That's just the way it is, right? Same way, the moment that Insomniac was purchased, a bunch of VR heads went because they literally held VR on their back for years, and now that's gone, right? Yeah. Same token, when PlayStation bought them, you can say, oh, they took something away from us. Yeah, that locomotion system you love in the Spider-Man, that came from Sunset Overdrive. It is par for the course, right? The only thing that the thing that makes me think that people are going too far with it is they never there are certain instances where you can see egregious behavior, right? You'll see somebody has literally a copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it says exclusive to this point or whatever. Or you'll see what was the other one? Stellar Blade. You see it there. It says coming to all of them, and then later on,
shown on the Xbox show.
Exactly. That is point blank. Okay, you want to grab your pitchforks? Go ahead, do that. You can complain about that. None of these instances, you can think that they were making them, yes, and at some point, most game development starts on PC, and the profiling for the various consoles comes later down the line, right? So at some point, they were still gearing towards this console and that, and they stopped because the console, the company was purchased, right? That's what they did. That's what happens.
They had a mandate
all
from
the
Microsoft.
time.
Yeah.
Or they have a mandate from Microsoft. Exactly. You think that that PlayStation, Sony will buy them and say, yeah, just keep doing that. Just keep going forward. No, of course they won't. They stopped doing that, right? And what Phil says, and I hear you with the flowery language, that is a C-class executive, right? People say he lied.
I don't think he lied.
A C-class executive lying means huge ramifications. Not just you on your Twitter streets going, "Oh, he lied."
Does it, Chaos Hunting? Does it, Porter Rock?
No.
I thought Jim Ryan
Not
believed
lying.
in generations.
Well,
Come
no,
on,
but
I think they have like saying
There's
something
leeway.
unless
Language.
there's like an illegal court document or something.
Yeah.
You know, I think the question is what Jim's saying semantics. Like people say, well, officially it wasn't announced, and I'm like, okay, so technically Sony never took away Street Fighter V away from Xbox because it was never officially announced for Xbox at any point.
There you go.
But nobody.
Right.
But here's the thing: nobody saw it that way until now. Last gen, PlayStation took Street Fighter V away from Xbox. So the question is
and you're true with that.
But they didn't purchase Capcom. They paid to not Xbox have it. That's what multi-platform third-party money hunting is.
Well,
though,
also,
isn't it?
rumor has it that with Street Fighter V, had they not paid, that game probably would have not come out. So all of that,
that's slightly different as well. You know? Yeah.
So now listen to the scenario. So this was when did Street Fighter come out? 2016. So Street Fighter V, 2016. Was 2016, I think it was, right? Let's say that. So when that happened, everyone universally agreed, to include the PlayStation guys. I don't think anybody disagreed. Sony kept this game off Xbox. At a while, people thought it was just going to be timed exclusive. No one realized, like, no, this is like permanent. You're not getting Street Fighter V. And I don't think there was any contention or disagreement or even a semantical arguing of, well, technically it was never announced for Xbox, so that never happened. So why... Now,
you know what I think it is? You know what I think it is?
We never did that before.
You know what I think it is? I think it's because, and I say this all the time, I think it's because these companies, they train their consumers. At some point, you know what to expect from them, right? If Sony buys a studio, you know what to expect because they've done it multiple times and it is what it is, right? But because Microsoft has always been kind of, well, we want to be inclusive and we want to because they have been very open in that way, and they have to be a bit more direct. When they say we want to have more players in, they should say players in general, not PlayStation players, because they don't care about PlayStation players. They want PlayStation players to become Xbox players, right? Yeah. But because every time the question comes up, will it be exclusive? And they don't nip it in the bud from day one, that then becomes a narrative.
Well,
right? And it continues to drag them. You know, had they been tight with it from day one, which, let's be clear, they couldn't have been, because at the time the questions were being asked, they were in the middle of the acquisition. You can't just be like yes or no. But
is that true?
I think all that conversation
is that true though? Has there been any other acquisition ever where they've not been able to confirm that games were going to be exclusive, or where there's been any shadow of a doubt? Or did Xbox make that up?
In the middle of conversation, in the middle of the idea of them buying it, you can't ask that question, because if you ask that question, they're not allowed to give you a straight answer because they're in the middle of the acquisition. Well, but that's
every other acquisition ever has managed all right.
Bungie's the chick that walks into the room and makes their own determinations. They go, "I'm here and I'm doing this, and if you don't like it, I'm out." That's been Bungie, right? We've known that. They did that with Microsoft, they did that with Activision, and now they're doing that with PlayStation. They are unique in the game space where they go, "You ain't controlling me. I'm here to do what I want. If you don't like it, I'm out." That's Bungie.
But are there any other examples besides ZeniMax?
Acquisition.
Where it was left in the air for a year.
Where was it not though, Asa? Yeah. Apart from Bungie, the independence was
all of them, Gaz. Every acquisition ever. It's never been a question until that one.
Yeah. So the thing is, so with acquisitions, right?
There's never been a question where the games are coming out.
Yeah. Never been a question. You never doubted it. You always knew they're exclusive and nobody's ever. Yeah. And we know with Activision Blizzard, before it goes ahead, right?
It's not a secret, right? It's most likely because of the scale, right? At that point, Bethesda had that scale, and it was like, "Oh my God, what a scale!" And of course, now that's table stakes at this point. But at that time, the scale was so big, and of course, there was mushy middle a little bit, because there are games that are currently on other platforms, and you're going to take it away? No, right? So all that kind of made the gumbo work a little weird. I do hear you that usually when they buy a studio or a specific entity, you know exactly what's going on, right? But because they bought something with such scale that did have hands in many pots at the time of purchase, that question became really big. And Microsoft, of course, being who they are, couldn't be like, "Nope, we're done," right? They did say that though when they finally finished and they were, at that round table and they just kind of did that. But it feels like at that point, people were already off on whatever direction they wanted to believe in.
So the economy of scale is the huge point, right? Because when you look at it, somehow a narrative got built saying that Sony doesn't want Microsoft to have exclusives, which is not true. Because again, we already seen Microsoft build up their portfolio. Ninja Theory, Compulsion Games, they bought Playground, which generally made exclusives. All right, and then look at the last two, or the last one, soon to be Activision, but Bethesda, ZeniMax. Sony didn't say anything.
No, they didn't. No.
And look at all the content Microsoft acquired. They got Doom guy. When you think about it, ZeniMax did a lot of things. They made them into an FPS powerhouse, technically, because now you got Halo. You always had Halo, but now you got Doom, Wolfenstein, Prey, and Quake. That is a huge group of first-person shooters, which now you can arguably say Microsoft
and Western RPGs.
Shooter, but a handful of RPGs, Elder Scrolls Online. They gained a lot with Bethesda. Sony didn't say anything. It wasn't until they hit a level of scale, namely Call of Duty, where Sony's like, whoa. And when you think about it, Sony hasn't even been.
Now you're really touching their pockets at that point.
Yeah,
you're literally touching
now
their
you're
pockets.
messing with my money now. Now you're trying to put that weed guy on my corner. Like, that's my corner, bro. You know what I'm saying? You got this whatever. But now you're trying to push your guys on my corner? No, and when you think about it, Sony's not even really against ABK in total, because they haven't mentioned Diablo. They didn't mention Overwatch 2.
Nope.
They don't care about World of Warcraft. They don't Rock Band. They don't care about that. King, take it all. It just is really about Call of Duty and nothing else. They, if let's say one of the things was Microsoft getting rid of Call of Duty, but they could take everything else, Sony would be fine with that.
They wouldn't contest it.
So it was really just the scale of that one game of Call of Duty, because that's where Sony's like, wait a minute, this one product is really important for our stuff. Everything else was fine. Like Microsoft could probably get CD Projekt Red. Sony would be like, whatever, hell, they messed up their last game anyway. It's just the economy of scale, and you just hit that one button point. You hit that corner,
and also the COD stuff. Like, I think it's beyond just like their pocket, because it changes the narrative for people, right? Like, for a long time, Sony has been saying these things are very like the AAA space, the AAA games that cost so much to make require it to be the way that they are now, which is kind of mimicking Sony's first party, right? But if all of a sudden now the biggest game that everyone knows is now in their subscription service, that narrative is broken, right? You can't say that anymore. At the end of the day, it kind of is.
Why do you disagree with that?
The reason why is because in order to do it, you need change. Right? If Microsoft goes, oh yeah, you could put Call of Duty. Well, sure. That's like saying, oh man, you could buy a Lamborghini. I could get one today. Sure. You could.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta stick with the Honda Civic. We're not. So Microsoft could do it. Amazon could do it. Google can do it. But the majority can't do what they can do. So I don't think it changes I don't think it changes the narrative. Microsoft, and I'm not saying, boo-hoo. So I'm not saying that at all. I mean, Microsoft has the $1 trillion flexi. If that's what you got to flex and be in business, there's nothing wrong with flexing your $1 trillion. But us as gamers, we can't expect, let's say, EA to put their games day and day on Game Pass or create something. We can't expect almost any company. Ubisoft, Take-Two, Capcom, Nintendo, right? I guarantee nobody expects Nintendo to try to do a Game Pass and put their games day and day. Boy, you do that, Nintendo will probably send a hitman after you. Like, notice nobody expects that, because their economy, they don't have that level of backing. It's one thing for Nintendo to create a big AAA first party game. It's another thing to put Zelda day and day for $15 a month. Nintendo just can't do it either. So I think Nintendo, I think people don't realize the flex Microsoft, which is fine. You got it, flex it, and if you are the only one that can do it, then oh well. If no one can follow in your footsteps, oh well, too bad, so sad. We could do it. You can't. That's your problem. Get your money. Well,
if Sony has any brains, and I'm sure it does, it will go for Capcom. And Capcom being purchased will have bigger long-term ramifications, in my opinion, than ABK will for Microsoft. But that's a different conversation. Capcom is huge.
I know guys are like, oh, Sony should get this. I'm not.
Sony should get Capcom.
Guy. I'm not a big acquisition guy, right?
Because I'm a big proponent for consolidation in this space, and I'll tell you why later on. But there's a limitation to it. This industry got a bit too relaxed with its multiplats, and now with Sony buying Capcom, after ABK and maybe a couple of small, not publisher level acquisitions, maybe Japanese devs or some talent, if we have these defined spaces where Sony's got Capcom, and I'm still salty that Bungie are independent. Their game should be exclusive. I said it on your show. I've said it on multiple shows. The day it was announced with Boom Show, Destiny 3, anything that Bungie makes should be exclusive to PlayStation because I love the competition. If everyone impetus for Microsoft to fix Halo, that would happen. But that conversation about why consolidation is good is going to be will just take us to another tangent.
It's a cyclical thing, but yes, continue.
I would say just the only reason why I'm against the Capcom thing, right? Because Capcom's fine, right? They do great. They make generally great games. To me, acquisitions, and not going against ABK because I understand completely. But like when Microsoft acquired Ninja Theory, I agreed with that because
they needed the help.
They needed the help. When Sony acquired Insomniac, I'm all about that. Me personally, I would like Sony to acquire Konami because they're not doing a damn thing.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Like finally, they're releasing Silent Hill 2, but before that, like think about it, this might be the first gen we don't get a Metal Gear game, especially on PlayStation.
Well, but Konami's printing money in other places, so they'd be all right.
Pachinko machines, man. I don't give a damn about that.
That's a good point that you made.
Solid 6, whether it's multiplayer or exclusive. So, like, if Sony acquires Konami, and now we get Castlevania, I see that's a benefit for gamers, right? But acquire Capcom, they're doing fine. Like.
They don't necessarily need
a bragging point.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
But it also gives a console a really just a unique identity. And then you've got these fixed Nintendo's own lane. You've got Microsoft with its Western RPGs and first-person shooters, but it's got competition from Bungie, from one day's games with exclusives. And you got Capcom. So much competition, and every console has its own identity. But I would love if that would happen.
Real quick, on the point of Porterrock's making about like acquire studios and developers that need the help. If that is the logic about it, do you know who needs to be acquired quickly because they might actually like be gone soon? Ubisoft.
Oh, Ubisoft.
They're dropping like a stone right now.
Yeah, because they're hurting. You know. They're hurting. Like they rely too much on copying the same formula for every game. Like no matter what the game is, it's like Assassin's Creed. You know, I'm like, man, this it's almost like the same.
They might be gone in 10 years at this rate.
That might be fine. EA's fine in my opinion. Let them do what they do, right? You know,
Sony can have Ubisoft.
You know, right. But you see what I'm saying? You know, but like studios, new upcoming studios, like the studios that did Cuphead. You know, all those guys. I think you can nurture, build them up. You know, like Sony got Housemarque. That was a great one because they probably made small titles which only sold like 500,000.
Housemarque is amazing. I love Housemarque.
Yeah, acquire them, and now you could build them up. They made their first AAA game because of Sony. Yeah, that's growth. That's great. Leave Capcom alone. Capcom's fine.
Capcom is more of a long-term play in a gen, and have a very different vision for where the console in gaming industries in the future. But that's a great point about the utility in buying a publisher that needs a Konami, which was in my video as well. Like they've been sitting on these incredible dormant IPs that they haven't done anything with, which is criminal. And that would be great. And I think it'd be a good synergy between Sony and Konami as well. Typically, historically, it is Metal Gear Solid and Zone of Enders. Do they own the IP for that?
Zone of Enders as well. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Silent Hill. I mean, these are the spiritual home is on PlayStation for them. So that would be a really good one. And I think it's coming. I think Sony will definitely be looking into publisher level acquisition, and it'll be happening very soon. And I think that will be exciting, man.
I just want Metal Gear. Please don't let this be the first PlayStation console where I don't get to play a Metal Gear game, because it will literally be the first console with no Metal Gear, which would break my heart.
Now you do realize that'll be
I would celebrate Konami.
Even a remake Metal Gear Solid 1.
That's a Kojima-less Metal Gear. Is that cool?
Had like Twin Snakes.
So you know what? So hopefully, so obviously, I'm praying that Sony finds a way to get Metal Gear, let's say 6, and Kojima and unite because you're right.
Them together.
Yeah,
I don't know if they'll want to do that, man. He might be like, I'm done. Like, forget it. I did that. You know.
There's always, just one more.
Just one more.
I was going to take a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake from Bluepoint. From Bluepoint.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be perfect. That'd be amazing for that.
Absolutely.
I would be happy with that.
I'll read some of these super chats, but Dub's member chat, thank you for being a member for 13 months. It poses a question to you, Portrock. He goes, I have a question for the panel, but mostly for Portrock. Do you think Sony, with its current talent set, can create a competent Call of Duty competitor?
So I'll answer. I think it will always be a mistake trying to create a Call of Duty competitor. I'll use one example. Killzone 2. I think it's the only Killzone I enjoyed. The multiplayer was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Part 3, they treaded on to making it a bit Call of Duty because they're trying to get that, and it massively failed because they took away identity. I think it's like, can you create a Zelda competitor? Can you create a Halo competitor? I think can you create a Madden competitor? I think companies that try to mimic something that's successful, you're going to fail because you're not the original. I think what Sony needs to focus on, don't worry so much about creating a Call of Duty competitor. Just create your own. Bring back like SOCOM. SOCOM's not a Call of Duty competitor, but it could be a successful SOCOM, and that's all they really need. Create. Hey, if that's the day Microsoft keeps Call of Duty exclusive, that's it. It's done. It's over. It's like Spider-Man. Wrap it up. You're done. Don't try to mimic it. Just focus something that's for you, and it could please your own audience. Because Call of Duty is not going to lose its audience. There's many people tried, and all of them failed. You can't,
including the people that made Call of Duty.
Look at Titanfall. Even if
look at Titanfall.
Right?
Exactly.
A new studio with Titanfall, you're just not going to do it. Call of Duty is Call of Duty.
Built a better game, but didn't do.
But it's not Call of Duty, which is fine. It's okay. You don't. I would prefer Sony just focus on their own multiplayers that speaks to that multiplayer and has no tie to Call of Duty. Leave it alone. You lost that. Move on from it. Create SOCOM. Maybe bring back Killzone if that's really what you want to do. But
when it comes to this question of COD competitors, like, it's impossible to do because COD is so big. It's people have tried and all of this. The point is, you exactly what you said, and BG did a great video that I think he uploaded it today and just hit the nail on the head on what I've been saying as well. Stop chasing COD, but what you're saying is something in the first-person shooter space that changes the paradigm. Fortnite did that massively. In fact, actually, that game copied PUBG and then refined it and did it better. But you cannot tell me that in the first-person shooter space, especially now after Halo messed up so bad, you got a gift PlayStation opportunity, a brief window to really do something special in this space. But with the incredible talent in that PlayStation houses, they can create absolutely, if they have the investment and they have the obvious talent, they can create a title, the new zeitgeist in the multiplayer space. You cannot tell me that Call of Duty is endemic to is so fundamentally ingrained into this industry that it will always be the force it is now. It has had a very long legacy, but that has a half-life, believe it or not. Call of Duty is going to not be what it's always going to be. It has been since for quite some time. And there will be a game that will come up. Elden Ring is to me, a representation of a game that showed to the world that your tried and tested formula is starting to wane. It was called a niche game. It's called Soulsborne's a niche game. And it's funny to call Elden Ring a niche after the breakout success that it is, to the point where the masses took notice of this incredible game that doesn't hold your hand. That was very different for a lot of people. I know people right now who regard Elden Ring as the best game they've ever played, never played a Soulsborne game. And that kind of drive, that kind of push, and when I talk about competition, I'm not like COD in sales, I'm talking about quality. People will gravitate towards that. And like BG said in his video, he's like, I'm so glad Microsoft made this comment. Make your own COD killer. We can do it in 10 years. There's enough time to do it. What that basically should make PlayStation fans happy, in my opinion. because we're like, good. Just, you know what? If PlayStation needs a kick up the backside to get their first parties to do this, this is it. Let's do it. I believe in Sony can do it. I definitely believe that they can create the next.
But see, your point is actually valid, and of course, a lot of people want to see some sauce on here, but we are in vigorous agreement. Like I think absolutely right. You know, every time you've seen any of these really the games that raise the bar and become like they sell everything, they're never like the other, right? You have Roblox, you have Minecraft, you have COD. None of them are like the other. Anytime you hear a killer, the killer always ends up becoming a failure. Like it never happens, right? One thing that Sony actually has done, which is very unique, is every time they have a multiplayer in their single players, it tends to be a diamond in the rough that they never really polish and continue on until now with the Last of Us factions, right? People might be love something factions, really great, right? And finally, they look like they're putting some energy into it. So yeah, the idea of make your own, maybe the actual words they use might not be the words to follow. Make a COD killer, because you're not. They don't mean make killer, make it like COD, but make something that reaches that level of quality, and just don't follow that.
Not even quality, COD, the attention. It's the engagement. It's the mind share. It's the and you can't topple COD if you're going to go after its formula.
All they need
How many games have done that?
Refine that formula that they had with The Last of Us as multiplayer and put it on PC as well. You do that,
on PC.
You're gonna take it all over, because people loved the way they did that the first time, and it seems like they let it lie dormant for too long, and now they've rekindled it again. So we'll see what happens there. You know,
so I think there's like because everybody's mixing a couple of things. So as if Call of Duty having it or not having it is a decision point. So Sony's decision to go multiplayer, whatever, that decision was done even long before Microsoft even mentioned.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
And the reason why
turned it around in a day.
So I did a video looking at, I think it was their second quarter, third quarter, 2021, because somebody mentioned, you know, one of my followers, subscribers said, "Hey, Sony really spoke on, you know, multiplayer. Why they're doing it? Check this out." So Sony, right? They even mentioned it. And they used Bungie as a case study. Since 2014, Bungie's revenue with Destiny grew 15% like clockwork every single year. And they showed this chart, and they show this huge chart about the money they're making through money transaction and everything, right? So Sony was already all in on multiplayer for this stuff, right? So I don't think Call of Duty, whether they have it or don't have it, is a catalyst.
No, don't you think that will motivate them?
No, I don't think they have one or the other, right? I think they were gonna be all in on trying to create multiplayer, trying to create the best. That's the reason why they bought Bungie. So they are serious about creating the best multiplayer they can. They spent $3.6 billion. $1 billion of it was salary and bonuses. They gave the company $1 billion just so that way they
talent retention.
So they are serious about multiplayer. I don't think losing Call of Duty or keeping Call of Duty is going to be a demotivating or motivating factor. I think they're just saying is, if I could make $5 billion with multiplayer, I still want my $1 billion. Like me, they want the cake and eat it.
They want to have the cake.
They want both. They want it all as best. But I think Sony's motivated because they've seen. I even put in a video, their 2025 budget, half the gaming budget is going to go to multiplayer. So right now, their budget is like 80-20. By 2025, it's going to be like 52-48. So they're serious about multiplayer. More than half their budget is going to go into the multiplayer sector.
They've already telegraphed the 10 plus gas games that are in development.
They're already. They announced 10 to 12. So Sony is all in, but it's a motivating money revenue. So.
I still think that Call of Duty is a ticking time bomb. They're looking at that 10 years. They're like, there is no. I disagree that. I know that I completely agree that they're all in. The money that they paid, the retention fee on Bungie, the talent. They feel they sat on multiplayer for a while. Let's be honest. They sat on their arse when it came to multiplayer, and it worked. Really, the strat worked for a while on the PS4 gen. But now with Call of Duty, that adds pressure. If anything, it adds pressure to them. Like, I think it will just add to the pressure to create better first-person shooters. I don't think you can neglect that. if I was PlayStation, if I was Jim Ryan or the Sony execs, like, right, we've got 10. Imagine it got signed today. We've got 10 years. That time is ticking. We can't.
Let me ask you this: who implanted like the whole time ticket thing, right? Because let me ask you this: let's say if you were Sony, right?
You mean 10
and
years?
you made an amazing first-person shooter, but you still have Call of Duty, right? That means you're still making money. Like, look at it from their perspective. Money's money. You can still have an amazing first-person shooter while still maintaining Call of Duty. Once you lose Call of Duty, sure, you still have this amazing first-person shooter, but you lost $1 billion. Yeah. So it doesn't matter, from the gamer's perspective. I think we're blurring the lines. From a gamer's perspective, sure, competition from gaming. Yeah, Sony made a first-person shooter. Yeah, Call of Duty sucks. This is better. I got that. But from Sony's perspective, that's not how they're looking at it. Losing Call of Duty, no matter what, is just a loss.
It's hurting their purse strings.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Well, we said
that, right?
Losing $1 billion, you're not going to make up for that, no matter how much you make, because whatever you're making, you still had the $1 billion.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I think we're blurring the lines of, from a Sony perspective,
no one's contesting.
From a gamer's perspective, competition. Like what we want is Sony to create a first-person shooter, which can hopefully make Microsoft say, "Hey, Activision, this whole yearly bullshit you're making is not good enough because Sony's trumping you. We need to step up." And I think from a gamer's perspective is what we want. Yeah. But from a Sony perspective, they're just going to lose $1 billion no matter what.
I don't contest the Sony's position on it. I will say, what would you say? And I'll read I'll come to the super chat. Thank you so much for patiently waiting there. But would you say you're a little bit surprised by the resistance from Sony on this deal? Or is this off the course? You're not accepting at all?
Absolutely not. Like, for example,
does Sony look better or worse or nothing at all from this?
Nothing at all.
This whole
like Lulu Cheng, when she said, Sony simply don't want the deal to happen. And everybody was like, yeah, see? And I'm like, I could have told you that last year. You didn't need Lulu Cheng to tell you.
Yeah, but that was the drama. You have to add
no matter what.
See, the surprise with Lulu, isn't the fact that with this revelation that they don't want it. It's the fact that you said it outright in front of regulators. Like, that's the dumbest move.
In Brussels,
that's like going, oh yeah, we're here, we're in the bank, we're stealing stuff. Let me look in the camera and say I stole this, and then leave. What are we doing?
But you have to understand, Peter Portrock. Simultaneously, they're saying the deal is inefficient because of X reasons, is lacking detail, blah 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 blah. But at the same time, you are saying in the same breath, we don't even care for the deal. So all you're arguing about is substantively you're entertaining this deal, but you don't actually care for it anyway. You've said it to face.
But like Asa mentioned, I think it was maybe not last week, but the week before, he said he tried to explain Sony's position. He's like, why would you care for your competitor's proposition? That's like, you can't propose something right now. Like, if you're my competitor, there's nothing you can say.
But you're talking to regulators.
Isn't it just like really refreshing to have a CEO tell the truth? Is that what we're all saying? Like, oh, it's so refreshing. Jim Ryan's honest Jim Ryan. He's saying what he means. Right, guys?
Yeah. but the
Jim Ryan.
Jim Ryan.
Yeah, he said,
no lies.
He said it.
Yeah, if you want
someone else said it for him. He didn't say it.
Like, if you want
he didn't say it to anyone.
Oh, he didn't say it.
No. Lulu Massave made sure he explained it to everyone. He didn't have the balls to tell anyone or the regulators
Jim Ryan
or you.
Keeps to himself. If you had asked him, he would have told you.
He would have told me. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't tell the regulators. Simultaneously, he's telling the regulators, "Look, we want to do."
Why do you think that he didn't tell the regulators?
He didn't. No,
because they're playing the game of stalling it. I'll tell you why. Why this the same reason? Despite the fact that what we've all agreed here that Sony wouldn't take the deal, they wouldn't entertain it. But they're still. Why are they simultaneously telling the regulators that the deal is substantially failing on detail, or they're not offering enough measures? Otherwise, they're just. Why didn't they go ahead and say they wouldn't? They're relying on.
Sony never said they wanted a deal. Sony never said, "Hey, we're trying to compensate." We're trying. No, that's one thing. This is
but they have come back and said it. They said the deal was ineffective.
Never said they want a deal. They just keep saying whatever Microsoft's offering is trash consistently.
But they're telling regulators. But they're telling regulators the deal.
But they're saying it's trash. We don't want it.
But they're not telling regulators that, we're not going to have a deal at all. They're just saying the deal is ineffective for us because of XX reasons. Microsoft redacted, and they came out even and said, they literally said, Oh, but by the way, it's Microsoft that sought to redact these
terms.
points.
Yeah.
So hold on a minute. What is it
Can
then?
Microsoft actually create a deal that is equivalent to what Sony's getting now? No, this is impossible. That's the point. There's nothing Microsoft can do to match what Sony's getting now, and that's why Ace was.
But why then is when Lulu said they're getting a better deal other than the 10-year ticking time bomb? When Lulu Cheng Massave says Sony's getting a better deal than they would ever get under us, what do you?
So let me ask you this. So Lulu Cheng, who works for Activision, who's gonna get a big paycheck if the deals go through, is trying to tell Sony what is a better deal for them. Does that make sense? I'm just asking.
She publicly said it. Why does Sony not come back and say this is false? Because
can Lulu actually speak on behalf of Sony on what's a better deal for them? That's what I'm asking.
Why can't Sony open them out?
Do you think she's in the position? And listen, if let's say like this, if I'm Sony, right, and I'm telling you this deal's not good for me, but Asia said, no, this is a good deal for Puerto Rico. Who are you going to listen to? Me, who actually owns the company, or are you going to listen to Asia?
Well, okay. So I think
I'm always honest as well. I'm like Jim Ryan. I tell the truth. So everyone would listen to me.
Jim Ryan, tell the truth.
I think what's happening here is the deal that is between Activision and Sony, like the terms of the deal between Activision and Sony that we don't have full clarity on, right? Massive A is saying that the deal that being put forth by Microsoft is better than the deal that they have been working under between Sony and Microsoft all this, Sony and Activision Blizzard all this time, right? Meaning Microsoft is offering to let you keep more of your money or pay less to have the service, to have the game on your platform. Now, obviously, to Porter Rock's point, it doesn't matter, right? Like, and that's
10 years.
That is, the 10 years. It doesn't matter if it's 10 years or whatever. That's right. What I think is hilarious is we knew that from jump, right? Everybody knew that. That's not even a term of that you have to debate. It's just the fact that he said that in a place where you really should keep that's your inside voice being outside. You should not have said that in that frame. It feels like that kind of ruined their own case because the regulators are there to make it amicable, right? They're there to go, okay, well, you don't like this happening, Sony, but we're going to make you feel whole as much as possible so this can either go through or if we see there's a problem, we're going to stop it, right? And Sony has been playing with them saying, hey, look, we want a deal. Well, they haven't been saying we want a deal. They just keep saying, like you're saying, Puerto Rock, they just keep saying the deal that we're being offered isn't appropriate, right? But the way they say it makes it sound like if you gave us a proper deal, we would take it, and this is not
exactly. And then it's the fake posturing.
I think we're adding stuff what we want to hear.
Well, because Sony themselves actually made points to the redacted detail, and Microsoft. We got Brad Smith. There's a lot of posturing as well for the media with the contract he's holding in his pocket. But they said like we're open to discussion. Has Sony sat on the table? They're not even answering calls.
Yeah,
they're just sat there. Exactly. So Jim Ryan's like, I don't want a deal, but to the developer, to the regulators, they're saying it fails because of this, and this reason. But you're not sat on there.
Let's look at this, right? What's really Sony really want? One, they don't want their competitor to have control. I think that's number one. They don't want
that's number one.
But they don't get to make that determination because they didn't got the pockets.
They don't have to make determination, but they can advocate to the. That's all they're trying to do. They're trying to throw stuff.
But the advocation has to be honest.
Yeah, they're throwing as much shit.
Business honest. I guess if that's if you want some honesty in this, I'm not.
Well, I'm not saying honesty in the full frame of honesty. I'm saying like you are like it's. I always use a football reference, a soccer reference for those who if you happen to watch the game and you see Ronaldo grab his leg, right? It's not hate on Ronaldo for grabbing his leg. It's hey, referee, are you seeing him grab his leg? Is it fake or is it real? If he gets away with it, he gets away with it.
That's a great point, right? It's like the acting in sports. It's up to the ref to sift through the bullshit.
It's up to exactly.
That's the acting.
And that's what both companies are doing.
To me,
both companies are doing their ploy.
What Jim Ryan did was grab his leg, and when the referee was looking, he went. Like, come on, man! You don't.
You could argue like he did a stupid move with that, but I think at the end of the day, right? it's clear Sony doesn't want Microsoft to have this company, specifically Call of Duty. Everything else is fine. They don't want them to own Call of Duty. Number two, they're not going to get what they really want. And the number one thing they really want is marketing rights, because you could give the illusion this is where you want to play PlayStation. And it's not like Sony's been quiet about that. Just recently, I think one of the vice presidents of PlayStation said, hey, we're going to make PlayStation the best place to play third party. So Sony has not at no point come up with any point of saying, oh, we want gamers to play our games. Even with their games on PC, they haven't really accepted, we want our games everywhere. They haven't. They're reluctantly we want our games on PlayStation, and this is where you're going to want to play. So they have been very
Jim Ryan did say this, Rock. He did say that the small console thing is so tiny to be restrained to 20 minutes, whatever, 50 minutes, so tiny. He did say that. He was alluding to the fact that he was dissatisfied that the games would just be on PlayStation.
No, but on that same interview, which everybody cuts out, the interviewer, because it was game industry, he asked him how does he plan to get more gamers? And he specifically said he plans to grow the console fan base. That part was cut out in the interview.
And I agree with him.
So look at that. He said he's going to try to use other ways to get more people onto console. So at that point, he was very vague. He didn't mention what these other methods were, but now look at what he's doing. You got The Last of Us as a TV show. That brought in a new audience because they love the TV show. There's like, this is a game. Let me play this game. And it shot up to the charts again. Right?
Yeah, that was a good
start. He did say in the interview he wants to continue to grow the console fan base. I'm telling you, that's Sony's thing. They're going to grow the console fan base. And I would say primarily, it's probably because that's where you have the most control. Once you leave your own device, you kind of lose control. Sure, you can do yourself on PC, but without actual home front of your own, you're kind of at the whims of Epic, Steam. PC gamers could do what they want. They can pirate your game. You lose a little bit of control.
I am always been in Sony's strategy about yes, it's more like kumbaya, but like since in my first appearance on RDX, I said I like Sony's PlayStation's strategy. Even if it's going to PC, you don't know when. So the value proposition of that console has not diminished that much. You really want to play a PlayStation game or exclusive, best off getting a PS5 or whatever. Yeah. So, and I've always been a proponent of that, even though it's not as pro-consumer though. But in the long run, I think it is.
It's business.
Let me just read these super chats, gents, because and thank you everyone in chat. And I like to weave in the super chat into the conversation. Although this one, Gunstar said with a £2 super chat, he goes, Jim Ryan resembles a neglected parsnip. So once things got heated, you guys didn't notice there was a someone created an account called Jesus Phil Spencer already.
That's it.
Phil Jesus
like in Brazil, he just had a statue of the mountain just like this.
With Phil's face on it. There you go.
With Phil's face on it.
Oh God, someone's gonna make that meme. Blasphemy. Phase 23, Brooklyn, New York. Thank you again for the $20 super chat. It's very generous as always. He goes, if ABK goes through, the floodgates will be open for Sony, Amazon, Apple, Tencent to buy their favorite publishers. The floodgates are always open. Or devs.
I think Embracer Group really started from great because I don't think people notice, Embracer Group had bought a lot of studios. So I think I think the reason why nobody noticed is because they're multi-plat. You know what I'm saying? So when Embracer Group buys or Tencent buys a group, nobody worries, am I going to get this game? Because they don't have a platform onto themselves, right? At least not yet.
Yeah.
Right? Because let's say if Embracer Group keeps buying, and then one day they decide, hey, we're going to create our own console, and all these games are that.
It's far-fetched, but it's something like they are gobbling talent. Absolutely. But as he says,
nobody notices.
They don't notice that as well. But ultimately, the floodgates were. Everyone feels like this consolidation hinges on this case, but really it's just timed with a regulatory mandate that they've just had, like, we're going to contest this, so it's made this big furore. Like, this ABK acquisition is going to set the precedent, and I don't think it does. I really don't. Yes, in the immediacy of things, it's going to be like maybe make it harder / easier for others, because if Microsoft can get away with 70 billion, Sony will find it easier to get away with what it can afford. So in that sense, yes, but I think the industry was always poised for consolidation happening. We saw it. We saw the Saudis' heavy investment before ABK, and then it just doubled down on it. You've seen Tencent They've been circling around.
ABK is Activision Blizzard King.
Blizzard King, little by little.
An amalgamation of consolidation from the 90s. Like, it happens all the time. It's
Absolutely. And it was also COVID was the catalyst for all of this, where people they saw the numbers, the shareholders, investors, whatever, looked at that and are like, all right, this is the next paradigm, along with the metaverse push, which seems to have died now. And it's all about AI. But Face says, let's see how Xbox fans react to that happening in the industry will change drastically in 10 years. I think there's a lot of concern, not a lot of for concern, but a lot of I don't have a crystal ball, but I think industry will be fine. I don't think you have to say the industry is going to die. I think actually it's going to be healthier, and I'll maybe perhaps make a video on it to put my case forward. But I know it's going to attract a lot of contention from all camps. Pro consolidation companies. What are you saying, guys? But for console gaming or this gaming industry in particular, I think it's okay. I don't think you need to worry about it. And Sony buying another publisher
for my
will
own
be
clarity, which topic
opinion.
are we on at the moment?
So this actually
the wine is hitting.
It fused into the ABK. So we were talking. You were absolutely spot on there. So we were talking about something else there. It just fused into the ABK fiasco. We've I
don't mind. This isn't a criticism. I just want to make sure, because you said earlier on, not long ago, that you're in favor of consolidation, and that's quite an interesting stance. So I just don't want to miss it when we get to that one. That's all. Just clarifying.
He wants to clip it.
You want a separate topic on consolidation?
I want to make sure that gets covered properly, because that's quite a bold position to take.
Well, should I make a video on it this week, and then next week we can discuss it? Because then you can pick apart.
I'm here for it. Don't leave me out.
Okay, fine. I'll talk about that. But let me just read these super chats. Okay, fair enough. We have to touch some of these topics. But okay, shouts with the £2 super chat. Thank you. But what if McDonald's acquired Coca-Cola?
God.
Don't do that here, shouts.
I've heard enough of that this week. Enough of that. Yeah. I'm sorry.
There were like whole videos done on this.
Hey, listen. Just eat In-N-Out and Five Guys. Forget about everything. We'll be all right.
That analogy. Riskit says with $3 super chat, if any of that were true, they'd have taken the deal. I don't know what you're alluding to there. Sorry, time has passed since we were talking about that. Just future-proof your super chats. Sorry, we can't read them in time because it's hard to weave them in all the time. Apologies. Beardy with a £2 super chat. Mobile gaming revenue will generate billions. Yes, that's where a big chunk of the pie is as well. That's where a lot of the focal point for Microsoft is King. It's a moneymaker. Risky again with the $3 super chat, because Capcom makes 0 sense for PlayStation up against others. We talked about this as well, and you made a good case for Konami. I think that'd be much good. Capcom were healthy now. Before with Street Fighter, they actually needed Sony's money. Sony, you'd say, actually helped bail out Capcom. And as a result, you've got Monster Hunter World and all these games. They're doing well. Resident Evil 4 remake, all the remakes and everything. So should Sony get some kudos there for money hatting? In that is a rare instance where it perhaps benefited the industry.
Another thing that people don't realize, it wasn't just helping fund Street Fighter V. Sony paid for everything in terms of Evo and coordinating Street Fighter V as the main game for Evo. Sony paid for that with ESPN. All of that was done. That was probably one of the reasons why Street Fighter V launched the way it did. Because by the contract with ESPN, the game had to be ready for Evo because ESPN had a contract and there was no way getting out. And so they had to get the game out as fast as possible to the professional fighters, which meant no single player story, all that stuff. So there was a whole mess. But Sony paid for a lot of that, so
to meet your interest
benefited in the long run. So interesting little story about how that whole thing happened. But Capcom was in a little bind.
Yeah, it was a bind, and Sony helped. And I think if you're a big Capcom fan, you have to give kudos there, even though didn't like the timed exclusive. I wasn't a fan of it at the time, but in the long run, you look at that. When they help with the development of a game, then already it's like, all right, fine, you back off. But with Capcom in the dire straits that they were in, and particularly now with the U-turn, has been tremendous. The glow up of Capcom is crazy. So Sony should get their their kudos there. Smartin Ghost 17 with a £5 super chat. To be honest, kids today don't even know about Konami, so that's a waste of money. So Sony buying it is a pipe dream for old school guys. I don't think so. We're all old here, so we don't know what to say.
Calling us graybeards.
Look how many people are playing like Resident Evil or stuff like that or whatever, you know? So sometimes, like you mentioned, guys, with the new hardware, you can take an old concept that probably at the time, you know, the developer or, you know, the lead had a bigger vision, but they're limited to what they can do. They could take a game and introduce a whole new audience, you know, and just make it bigger than what we had.
Well, take things, I know it's a weird example, but Zone of Enders, that was an amazing game. Vagrant Story is an incredible RPG on PlayStation 1. One of the games that's screaming for a remake because the system PlayStation 1 was underpowered, but it's such an incredible RPG. If that was remade again, I'm sure the young uns would love it as well. So there is I disagree with that, but thank you again for the super chat. It's good to have divergent opinions. Detective Seed, thank you for the $20 super chat. It's very generous. All he says is, have a great weekend playing games, guys. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. It's a fiery show as expected. Calvus Alvarado with a $2 super chat. Shout out to Porter Rock Gaz Acer at panel. He left out KSRT by name. What, Calvus? Love the mix. No, but he says the panel, so yeah. Risk it for the biscuit. Thank you for the $8 super chat. 10-year parity is a sweetheart deal. PlayStation needs to sit down, shut up, and let adults talk. They are burning a lot of bridges and goodwill this gen. What do you say to that, Porter Rock? They're burning a lot of bridges and goodwill this gen.
Listen, I'm not the one getting paid $10 million a year, so that's on Sony to figure out. You know, now, you know, if I was a board member, different conversation, but that's for Sony to figure out. I will say this: at least they did get it to the point where it's 10 years, because originally it was only 3. So they did get a win.
I mean, we may talk about that later, but based on what's happening now, they may have overplayed their hand because any of their leverage is gone now. Like if you
I don't think Microsoft will not take it away.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's trending on Twitter. Oh, now Microsoft don't have to give them any deal. No.
We're not saying, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm saying, like, knowing Microsoft who they are, once they put it out there, it is out there. But literally, and we're going to start digging into ABK details, but basically they're saying that even partial foreclosure is fair game. So at this point, where you insisted on parity, the regulatory bodies are saying, if you want to keep stuff away from them for a certain amount of time, we don't care about that.
I can see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? That's a bit of a difference here. A partial foreclosure is fair game. Whereas they were insisting that it needs parity, even the regulatory bodies are saying, yeah, it's good that you're not foreclosing on your rivals, but the CMA, partial foreclosure is fair game, meaning you can say Warzone only. You can say the campaign comes first. You can say, well, you don't get these skins anymore or something. That is now fair game, which wasn't part of the conversation before. This is a big deal.
So what you're saying is that Sony are going to walk up to Brad Sams. They're going to walk up to Brad Sams and say, "Can we sign that contract that's in your pocket?" And he's going to go, "Yeah." And he's going to pull out an Olive Garden menu and let's.
This is my point. This is my point.
And like, he says, "What?" He said, "That was in my other. That was in my other house." You know?
At this point, it's now you get what you get, and you don't get upset because your leverage is gone now. You know what I'm saying? They'll still give them the 10-year deal because they've said so. But you waited until the regulatory bodies went, well, we don't think console is a big deal anymore, so throw that out the window. Now you get what you get, and that's it, which is kind of a big deal. You know?
We'll see how it plays, but as far as the 10 deal, I've seen a lot of people like, oh, you're going to suck. The 10-year deal is gone. It's not gone. It hinges on the way Microsoft fought this and from a position of weakness, in my opinion.
And that's what I'm saying. I think since they built their strategy and right now it looks like it's successful with how they're offering 10-year deals, I think that was a huge portion of the win. You know? And then they mentioned Nintendo, these unknown streaming sites I never heard of in Lithuania or whatever. But the whole combination gave a better optics of Microsoft. Remember we talked about on Blaze?
For the record, though.
A little loss to gain the win. And I think that's why Microsoft did a good job of, you know what? Let's give a little so we could gain a whole lot more. But I think that whole optic has to be maintained until the ink dries. After that,
real quick, if you dig into the details, the reason why you have those unknown things, a lot of them came from the regulators. Like the list of we think these guys potentially could be harmed by your cloud, by your cloud. Yeah, Boostroid was on the list. Ubitus was on the list. So they literally went down the list and went, okay, well, you get a deal. You know, they literally just went and did what.
I didn't know that.
Some, people better than me, and I won't say that loudly because Everborn Saga will hear me say that. Read through this thing and dig in detail and go,
Everborn reads in it a lot.
Yes,
I'm not reading 20,000 pages. I don't get paid for that.
And realize that they didn't just pull Ubitus out of nowhere. It was actually called out by regulators, and then it went, okay, well, you want these people to have a deal? There they go. So they're literally just following the orders.
That's a smart move. They're hitting every check in the box saying, all right, this is an issue. Take scratch it. And I think that whole encompassing optic is what's helping them out.
Yeah, absolutely. It has, but I still think it should have been time limit.
What would be funny is, because this is what I would do if I was Microsoft. So I'm going to put on my Microsoft hat and I was executive. After the ink dries, I'm going to be like, hey, how much Ubiquitous and Boostroid's worth? Buy them.
Yeah.
It says I can't buy them. Am I lying, though?
That's actually a good shout.
Am I lying? That's what I would do. All these things that have contracts, yeah, we're buying all of it. Am I lying, though? Hey, that's what be me. I'll be ruthless if I was Microsoft. I'd be like, got it. Now buy all of them. Now
then you can't buy nothing ever again, right? If you come back to a publisher again,
$2 trillion, baby.
Well, you know what that means.
We're gonna swipe that Visa Black card.
Once you come back to the regulators and they go, we saw what you done did. You think you're gonna get another deal?
Us again, God damn it. Like, hey.
Well, according to Red Dragon, they'll just buy them off again.
This time I'll just buy the regulators. How much the regulators worth?
There you go.
Face 23, Brooklyn, New York, with a $20 super chat. He says, what's stopping Apple from buying Sony? If Microsoft gets ABK, would gamers like that? Sony is Apple. It behaves like it. Nothing would change.
I don't think Apple will be interested in that market, to be honest.
The gaming market is.
I don't think gamers
not at that level. I don't think they're interested in the AAA console gaming market. They're not.
You wouldn't be buying. If anybody were interested in buying Sony, it wouldn't be for the sake of the console space, because the console space is just, if it was valuable enough, then Apple and Amazon and Google would already be in it. But that doesn't mean that Sony as a company don't have value in gaming if you were to want to take on Microsoft and their vision for the future.
Yeah,
I think if you buy
I can
Sony,
actually see Apple buying Sony one day.
I'm not saying that's going to happen.
If you're buying like if Apple want the Sony, I would say it's probably more because of their movie studios and music. I would say that would probably be more valuable to them than the console. So
I think it'd be a good buy for Apple.
I think their music, their movies, their integration into cameras, right? Because the Sony lenses is what's on almost every popular camera around the world. Things like that. I think that would be more interesting to Apple than gaming. They'll dive in gaming, but if they were ever considering Sony, I think it would be, we want Sony Studios. We want Spider-Man. Apple Plus exclusive.
Well, what you're alluding to is entertainment, the entertainment industry, and Sony has its its claws into that quite deep. There's some number of years. There's a very good legacy there. So Apple, we can joke about it, but I can always see. I've always said, I think when Hargeet mentioned it ages ago in a party chat, what about Apple buying Sony could actually happen? I'm like, yeah, I can definitely see that happening.
And then also, I don't know how the Japanese government would also relate to that.
Yeah,
there's also, because Sony's big into technology. They provide a lot of technology to their military, to the defense force.
Yeah.
We can't have Apple own Sony unless you make these concessions, separate the semiconductor from this. That's a whole different. But I'm gonna shut up because that's
a good point. Because a lot of people talk about consolidation and Sega being bought by Microsoft, and that international element of that is a bit murky. But we'll talk about that another day. Christian with 5916 with a $5 super chat. With the US asking for Sony to be investigated for monopolies in Japan, how do you think it will affect its ability to get a Japanese dev/publisher? I don't think that will happen. It was just a US senator. So I got a bit of the news here. So it was during a Senate Finance Committee hearing, and it was Cantwell is her name. She said, I'm told that Sony controls a monopoly of other international... I'm told that Sony controls a monopoly of 98% of the high-end gaming market, yet Japan's government has allowed Sony to engage in blatant and anti-competitive conduct through exclusive deals, like third-party deals, and payments to game publishers, establishing games that are amongst the most popular in Japan. So they talk about like Final Fantasy or something like that. But that's just a US senator putting them on blast. I don't think that has any material or serious impact on Sony at all. This is even if it happens, it's very speculative. They'll still buy it. And the Japanese dev and publisher, Sony is a Japanese company, just one region, America. I just don't think it'll stop them. Maybe an indication of some resistance in the future if they do go ahead and buy it. There's a lot of geopolitics involved in this deal, by the way. I keep saying it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's not. Why I said that this deal would go ahead anyway, I cannot see the United States executive level. We talked about this last week, actually. Executive level, they will not like to see.
We talk about it every week, guys. Every freaking week for the last year.
He's like every damn week,
every damn day. With this deal,
I can't wait till this deal is done. Just
it's getting done. Though. This is positive for Acer. There's light at the end of the tunnel. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Jenna Hayes with a $5 super chat. Why does that name look so familiar? Is it true that when Boomstick was in the NYPD, he used to place stolen Xbox games at the crime scene to spray suspect?
Wow, that is not cool, sir. Or ma'am, I should
stolen
say.
Xbox
That is
games
not
at
cool.
the crime scene.
Shout out to Jenna.
Shout out to Jenna Hayes. What is that about? I have no idea what that is.
He's the reason why they're wearing body. He's the reason why they're wearing body cams. It's because of that. False accusations of having Xbox games.
Oh, what the hell was that super chat? This bit weird.
Out of left field, man. That's very strange.
Fun, you got it reminds me of an adult actress. I think the name is for research purposes. I'll find out on Google. Okay. And then she says that.
Do a couple of hours of research.
A couple of hours, maybe 2 minutes. That's fine. Oh man. So. Because we went straight to ABK without. There were some topics before that. Asa, do you really want to talk about my consolidation point and why I think it's good? Is that going to be good viewing? Should I make a video? Can I just
I'm interested because I'll be honest. I think you're the first gamer that actually, in total,
good
is pro consolidation. I don't think I ever heard to the way you said it. Like, I know some people are kind of dibbly-dabbling it, but you seem certain. Like,
make a case, man. Make a case. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm interested in hearing your case.
So it's kind of eating at my video. I had a really good video and a good track for this, building up, because I always build my videos with the music I hear first. So I've got the folder there with the music, but it doesn't matter. It won't hurt. So in my video, and my view really why this is a good deal, when we had the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo generation, there wasn't that much overlap in terms of multiplats. This concept of a multiplat became really a thing in the 360 PS3 gen.
Yes.
And the industry had this identity. Each platform holder had its identity there. And I think that identity got diluted when we accepted multi-platforms as just becoming default. And the 360 gen, I think the consoles started to lose that identity. And now you're getting all these multi-platform games. So in the future, when you have a consolidated, in my view, a consolidated industry, you would have, for instance, what does that mean? In practically, you've got Sony that has these studios, Capcom, say Konami, and whatnot. That's a defined vision and a defined platform that's got its own games. PlayStation now has an identity. It's not relying on third-party games all the time. Xbox has Western RPG hold. It's got its first-person shooters with Bethesda. It's got its own identity. Nintendo literally has its own identity. It's running in its own space. It doesn't rely on multiplats. So as far as the gaming industry is concerned, I could definitely see an outlook, an industry where the PlayStation has its own identity, Xbox has its own identity. They have, as a result of consolidation, you have all these games appearing on these platforms alone. Yes, fair enough, you may not get to play multiplats, barring of some who are not consolidated, but you'll have defined defined identities in a broad market. And I cannot see why that's hurting someone. So if Sony has all these... Yeah, go, absolutely.
So games themselves and people making games, there will always be competition in that space because people have finite time and finite money. So there will always be competition amongst developers and publishers to make the best games that they can that are going to get those people's time. If the the alternate reality where you don't go towards consolidation and instead you go towards like a proper flat sheet of people making games across the board, multi-platform everywhere, then Sony, Nintendo and Microsoft would have to deliver better hardware at better prices with better services, and that would be the competition at that point. Is that not better than having to buy all the consoles because you want to play Western games on Xbox and Zelda on Nintendo and Last of Us on PlayStation or whatever?
But that's a good point. But what my consolidated vision doesn't actually necessarily negate the drive to get competition, just because you've got these studios that develop these kind of games. Microsoft now is looking at, because the industry is fluid. You can't just say, so in one generation, all of a sudden, third-person shooters are going to be a thing, like first-person shooters are. So what does that mean? Microsoft says, oh no, we can't do that because we don't have a studio that does it. So we use our talent pool to develop that. So it doesn't hinder competition. That doesn't mean that you've got a consolidated industry with these talented studios. Fixed studios means that they stop doing that. They have their identity. They're still driven by competition because of supply and demand. It goes back to what Strauss-Zelnick says of Take-Two. He says he doesn't see consolidation as a problem. The gamers will ultimately go where the quality is at. So if that's what gamers want, whatever gamers want, the industry will deliver it. And I think just having these fixed identities and now fixed talent, everyone knows what these things represent. It was fine in the PlayStation 1 gen. It was fine in the PlayStation 2 generation. And it can absolutely be fine in the future. I just find this whole I've never been a proponent of, because on the inverse of that is what you said, a flat page. Everything is everywhere, and it's like some people are like, oh, we want a single console future, and to me that is not one that will be a competition on a micro level amongst studios, which will still be, I guess, okay, but I'd much rather have these defined visions for the defined parameters, fixed talents, fixed studios like that. And I can see it because we had a history of that.
Do you remember the Xbox One and PlayStation? I'll let you catch Santi 1 second though, just really briefly, because the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One generation, that hardware was really, really underwhelming, and they set their stalls up on exclusives instead, and they gave us terrible hardware. Would you not see that being the future if they've got an exclusive catalog as their like? That we're consolidated. You need to come here if you want to play our massive catalog, and multi-platforms are less of a thing now. Will we not just get terrible hardware at terrible prices, or?
I don't follow the hardware PowerPoint. Sorry, can you repeat that?
If in a world where the games are multi-platform and everything is you're not drawn into. It's not a realistic world, by the way. There will be exclusives, and we're going to be drawn to platform.
Hitting my point. He's just partially hit my point.
Go for it. You hit your point. I don't want to take it.
So let me holistically, but I'm gonna use another industry. I'm gonna use the phone industry. So in the early 2000s, when cell phone boomed, there was a whole bunch of cell phone companies in America, just everywhere. You had so many choices, right? So when one service is not up to par, you can easily transfer for another one. Little by little, the phone companies kept buying each other out. Literally. In America right now, the three main companies is T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon. You got Spectrum, you got little parts. For the most part, in America, you're either T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon. Those are the primary. Right now, I'm in T-Mobile. I don't really like T-Mobile. But AT&T and Verizon ain't really doing anything to make me leave T-Mobile. What's happening is, as you consolidate powers, you actually have less and less competition, but you still have this huge space. In my opinion, these companies learn to not really fight each other. They're kind of happy with the way things are because where you're going to go.
Yeah,
you have like three choices. So they don't have incentive to be like, yes, I got to have you. You're either going to pick PlayStation, you're either going to pick Microsoft, Nintendo. You don't like what I'm doing?
While I agree with you, Porter, and you're absolutely right, I will push back on your point a little bit, comparing the phone companies, I completely agree with you. Living in the States, ISPs, this whole thing. They even have a thing where, like, regionally, they will agree to stay out of a region so somebody else can have.
ISPs, like,
that.
So internet service provider, there's literally places, like, let's say if I buy a home.
Where you have one choice. Yes.
You buy a home and you go with your builder and be like, yeah, I want Verizon. No, only Time Warner service here.
Yeah.
Like, you literally can pay for your home and you cannot actually pick who you want.
I'll push back on you a little bit on that, though. Well, I'll push back on you, and I kind of agree with Gaz, his ultimate point, but not the reasons. My reason for it is the difference in gaming is it's been dynamic and it's been part of the gaming industry for a long time. Most people just haven't been paying attention. Part of the creators, the auteurs, the people who come and they make studios it gets to a critical mass, a first party buys them, they go make a new studio. That has happened many times, and it hasn't changed now. Activision Blizzard we're talking about is an amalgamation of many different studios. Square and Enix, I remember when Square was just Square. It happens all the time. In the world where consolidation, in the cyclical consolidation allows to happen, the new champions show up and it gives room for them to breathe. Places like Annapurna. I hear Annapurna Games now. I know it's a banger because that's what they do now. They've been allowed to breathe. There's more room for them to shine. Places like Devolver Digital. In a world where all these players are still there, Devolver Digital doesn't breathe. Now Devolver is becoming a bigger player in the space. There may come a time where Devolver gets sold to a first party, but then at that point, another crazy studio. What did we hear? Some of the original creators of Playground moved on to start another studio. That is part of the cyclical nature of it, right? Now, if that were to happen, where it became like the phone companies, where then they left the space and then left more space, and then you lose choice, I'm 100% with you, 100%. But so far, every time we've gone through this cyclical thing where more people gobble things up, there's a space in the market that others then grow into. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like gaming is a bit different when it comes to that, but we shall see how it goes with this. This is the latest round of big consolidation. But as so far, historically, as more of the bigger players get bought up, look at THQ, right? THQ used to run this game, and then THQ became nothing and got bought up. And now they're basically Embracer Group, right? Because most of THQ is Embracer Group at this point. It always leaves room, and because gaming is dynamic, there's always a new player ready to then come and shine. And because there's space there, they are now the big dogs, right? Devolver and Annapurna being a big example of that. So I agree with you guys that consolidation tends to be bad, but in the gaming space specifically, it seemed to be that they're a little different, like because of the dynamic nature, because there's so many people wanting to get into gaming, development side and all of that, it tends to open up the door for others to then be able to come and shine as well. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't really hate it as much as others do.
But conceptually, as an idea, I'm a proponent for consolidation because I can see in my vision of how things would pan out and how consumer behavior is like in the gaming space. And echoing a lot of Strauss Zelnick's points from Take-Two CEO that ultimately this industry is so driven by competition. But then there's a lot of nuance there because the AAA space, in my opinion, is so bereft of any creativity. I think that
it's all in the indies.
It's all in the indies and the AA space.
So
and I think
I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Go for it.
I was saying more on Gazer's point about, because I don't think Embracer Group.
Gaz or Acer?
You said it Gazer. Hey, join that one.
He's never met us again.
I don't think Embracer Group.
He just consolidated you two. See what he just did there?
Gaz is in favor and not.
Consolidated. Gazer. See, that's what happens when you consolidate.
There you go.
But listening to what Gaz said about, unique lanes, like Embracer Group, I don't see that as, because even though Embracer Group consolidated a lot of developers, they're still multi-plat. So really it's just still multi-plat games just under one banner, but the end result to the user, you can still play it anywhere. What I'm listening to what Gaz is talking about is unique lanes, like Sony lane, Microsoft lane, Nintendo lane, maybe one more competitor, and they're distinct lanes across the board. You have to pick a lane to play a game, period, across the board, right? There's no more a blending of, well, I got this console, I don't have to, in those specific lanes, in those specific lanes, if the lanes were to be created that way, because of less competition, I think let's say if it really comes down to Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony. Let's say we live in a world.
Three.
You gotta either pick a Nintendo product, a Microsoft product, or Sony product, and whatever product you pick, those games are exclusive to those lanes for the identity's sake. I think in that world, Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft would just be comfortable the way T-Mobile, Verizon.
That's a distinct ring.
They'll just be comfortable because it's like you're gonna go where you're gonna go anyway. So they're not gonna put the extra effort to really put all this extra billions of dollars in campaigning. And that's, in my opinion, I think Spectrum, AT&T, Verizon, all these companies, they got lazy because they realized where else you're gonna go. Yeah. So I don't need to put all this effort. You're gonna go where you're gonna go, and you're gonna stay there, And I don't see that.
That is definitely the distinct.
And one more point: before the 360, you are correct. There was those lanes, but if you remember, there was only one winner. There was never before 360. PS3 was the first gen where you can nominally say there was a good balance: 80 million 360, 80 million PS3. We sold 100 million. Before that,
it was the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 generation was one of the best.
It was a slaughter, though. 100 million to 34 million. Not that many people owned an N64.
But in terms of the outlook of how the industry health was,
but most people didn't
one
own
of the best
an N64. Most people didn't, and Nintendo was on a downward trend during that point. But they kept selling consoles gen over gen. They were selling less consoles. They were selling less games. GameCube was critical mass for them. That's the reason why they created
sales with industry health. I think that was a very healthy time for the industry. Obviously,
Sony, Nintendo it wasn't.
And by the way, guys, one thing to put into the mix, though, you look at those days as great old days. Those days were all consolidated. The reason why those lanes were established is because they had different hardware. They could not interoperate. We are now in x86 world. We're not
That's
going
the reason
back,
why.
Right?
Well, I've always found as an industry. Those are healthy. A lot of people found that as the best.
Back then, there was feeling of, all right, who's selling the most? And then they'd be like, all right, ride that wave.
Yeah.
Because that's how third party was. They supported the number one selling console, and every other console didn't do so well. So if you remember, there was clear winners during those generations. The 360, PS3, the whole dynamic with that relation changed everything. That's when the first time developers like, you know what? Everybody banked on the PS3 until they actually unveiled it. And they're like, holy cow, like, what do we do? Like, who do we rely on? Nintendo went on their own lane, so they couldn't rely on the Wii because it was too underpowered. You got the Xbox 360, but that was like, doing good. Yeah. So developers like, you know what? We're just going to put our games as much as we can for us to survive. And they realized that was a better thing for them. So I kind of get what you're saying with unique identities, but I think the way I see it, let third party be third party. Let first party grow first party. And I think that balance will overall be better for us. Let third party do third party things. Let first party do first party things. Let's not try to absorb. That's why I'm kind of against with the Capcom. Let Capcom do Capcom. It's fine. Let Capcom do Capcom. They're going to be fine.
Well, Capcom, I take that point on board.
Let EA do EA. Get the smaller developers, build your first party. I'm fine with the ABKD. I get it. I'm not trying to. In fact, I don't bash for any company, right? But I don't agree with Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony just straight out absorbing everything. Let the successful third parties do well. Build your own stuff. Maybe get the smaller studios. The balance of third party and first party, I think, is better for us. I think it's a better balance.
When I say consolidation, I don't mean mass, that's it, done. The whole industry is consolidated. I think when I say consolidation, I mean, like, at the moment, it's to enhance the identities of all three a little bit more. It's not like this total future where it happens, but there are pitfalls. You mentioned a good point, player choice. Crossplay, I'm a big proponent of crossplay. What happens with crossplay? Because that wouldn't really work. But what I'm saying is, like, generally, I want Sony to buy another publisher because I think that will enhance competition in the short term. Like, not this like crazy utopian future where everyone's just like 3 tracks. I think that a little bit of consolidation will help to enhance competition. Because now Sony has to build an FPS that really worth it.
They're doing that, right? They bought Bungie in order to enhance their multiplayer output. So they're doing that, right?
Exactly. Like, consolidation is actually helping PlayStation gamers now. If they want a good FPS, now Bungie's on talent. They're going to go help other studios within Sony's first party stable. Can you imagine this? I said it on your show, and I think I said it on Blazer's show Last of Us factions, watch out for that. Like, push that stuff. I want them to come out of their comfort zone. This consolidation can enhance competition, and that's what generally my point is. So I don't think it's that crazy, but no one really wants to say the C word in a positive light. But whereas I am actually quite for it, even as a concept, which people will be resistant to, even on the Xbox camp, which I understand. But yeah, it was a good conversation on that. Risky with a $8 super check because I'm completely against consolidating unless there's a clear benefit to the industry that outweighs the negatives. Gobbling up studios is bad for creativity. So that means you're against consolidation for flat. That means what Microsoft is doing, you're saying is bad for creativity.
I push back a bit on that a little bit.
He did say if there's a benefit. So I'm assuming Game Pass. So there's a balance for that. So.
Well, let's even keep Game Pass out of it, right? Let's keep Game Pass out of it. The bad for creativity part, I disagree with, because if, like you were saying, Puerto Rock, if Ninja Theory released their last game without Microsoft, they'd not be existing anymore. They were allowed to have that creative outlet, whether it was successful or not, and now they're allowed to make Senua Part 2. You know what I mean? So, in certain instances, they're allowed to be creative, and yes, Game Pass is a factor in the equation, of course. But if you have a situation, it's not all things to all people, but if you have a situation where you're allowed to be creative and still, like, for instance, what do you call it? The studio that's known for making horror games coming out with Hi-Fi Rush, that usually doesn't happen in a normal non-consolidated, Tango Gameworks, in a non-consolidated world. It's a risk to let them do something that's out of their comfort zone. But if you're in a place where you have the backing of a bigger fish, if it were, as it were,
or more money to do more, take more risks.
So I think that's not always the case, but I do take his point.
Yeah, it's a broad statement, but there's detail to it, and then we've seen it potentially with Ninja Theory. We're already seeing them really reaping the benefits of the additional, the security blanket that's offered as a result of consolidation. J Pro with the £5 super chat goes, consolidation in the cloud space is a bigger problem, which is one of the concerns of the regulators. But it's such an early, young market. I don't know.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not big on the cloud market. Like, I don't. Maybe I'm way behind, but the thing is, I think there's always going to be a space for hardware as a primary mechanism, because the advancement of generational gaming is the advancement of the technology behind it, right? Yeah. So let's say a PlayStation 6 trying to play it over the cloud, how much bandwidth? And I think people don't realize, for the internet service provider, their main thing is not what the gaming industry. They really don't care. They could care less about it. If anything, they're absorbing too much data. That's why they try to either come up with a gamer plan or something, right? If you look at the IT industry or the ISP industry, they're going to do a big push, especially when you get the Wi-Fi 6 generation, Wi-Fi 7 generation. They want to decable house and put a box. And that's how you get internet in your home, right? You already seen like T-Mobile doing it. Like, they got a hotspot. Spectrum, either Spectrum or Comcast.
That's all because of the version. Not to get too techie on you. That's because of the technology that's coming in. The 5G fake stuff they keep throwing at you. That's 6G, not real. The millimeter wave 5G is the actual real deal, but in order for that technology to do it, it's very short range. So in order to get actual real 5G,
they need the actual
tiny little boxes everywhere.
Yeah, so
right? It's not that one tower that broadcasts everywhere like it used to. So that's why they're going, well, we're not going to be able to provide everybody a tower, so now everybody has to get this little box for this neighborhood, another little box for another neighborhood. It's because they're prepping for that 5G millimeter wave,
Yeah, so with that, right, that's what the internet industry is pushing. But that type of industry is not very good for high-performance gaming.
True.
Because you don't have the bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
So are you willing to play a PlayStation 6 over the cloud, but it looks more like a PS4? No, you want the bells and whistles, you want all that stuff, and the true way to get that is through hardware. Actual GPU, CPU processing will get you the graphics.
I suspect you'll change your mind in maybe 4 or 5 years, because the millimeter wave 5G is like, it rivals the connection you have in your house, but only if you stand in a certain place right now with your phone. And of course, the battery turns to 0 to 5 seconds. But as the technology matures, they have bandwidth for days. It's really, really performant. It's just very early days right now. You know, for me, the whole cloud thing, it's like I always say this whenever anybody brings up the cloud. I will never watch The Matrix without putting in a 4K Blu-ray disc. But you'll watch it on Netflix, and that's your choice. That's fine, right?
I recently discovered how bad 4K streaming is compared to the Ultra DVD on Blu-ray. I just found out last week.
Now, keep in mind, that's just visual. Gaming is a little bit more active.
Is the latency and all of that. That's right. That's
now, imagine, guys, you're playing Elden Ring, so not only is your RB button not working, but you got this latency. You're just going to have a miserable time because...
let me be clear. I'm a little self-serving because, like Asa, I think that VR is the future, and when millimeter wave is the level of the ground that internet is on, then you'll see games that are just beamed to your headset, and you'll have no latency because the bandwidth is just that big. It's miles compared to where we are now. And some of the few countries that have it, it is night and day difference. Your phone connection can be your home connection and you'll never notice. Like it's gigabit down on your phone when it works. Right now, it's just very, very early days. It's very early days, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in 4, 5, maybe 6 years, when, you know, hopefully, specifically spoken about America, when they get their heads out of their asses and actually do what's right for the country rather than politics, maybe you'll see that and it'll convince you. But right now,
I love it now.
you know,
America's
your historical evidence says it's not going to happen, and there's nobody can fault you for thinking that.
Yeah, America's the worst for advancement in speed. Yeah. It's actually it's incredible how. You know, when I was in Europe, I was like, "Oh my god!"
Germany, even the UK is just like good.
Yeah.
I've got crap speed. I'm like, what? I'm in London. Why have I not got 1 gigabit?
In London. You expect me to play a game on this?
Exactly. What the hell's going on? It's stupid. My name is Mud. Thank you for the $6 super chat. PlayStation 3 would have dominated the 360 had Sony not screwed up the launch so bad. It was speculative, but perhaps yes, because a lot of the industry pundits, were expecting a landslide victory, but that 1 year head start really did.
Also the hardware differences was also a problem.
But the game
hardware differences
hard on the hardware
and online.
Getting Gears of War as an exclusive,
Gears of War
that was huge.
And online as well. You can't downplay how important online. Yeah, online party chat. People
started.
Achievements
was huge, which is now a default standard.
Yeah.
You know?
So I don't think that it's speculative, but Sony would have definitely had a much better position at it launched at the same time.
I think they wouldn't have embarrassed themselves as much. We wouldn't have we wouldn't have the memes that we had.
Yeah, it wouldn't have the memes. Yeah, definitely wouldn't.
The memes were funny.
Sora Grant with a £5 super chat. Thank you, man. Because we complained about tapes and LPs going away. Cloud will happen, people. Looking forward into the industry. I think there'll always be. I agree with you, Portrock. I think there'll always be a space for physical hardware, and even the execs have said as much. But when we start talking about talking about playing cloud in a serious manner in a natural extension of our gaming, then we'll have that conversation seriously. I don't think that's happened yet. I don't think we're really
right now. It's more scientific experiments, if nothing else. I dabble, but that's not where you really want to play. Yeah.
Like gaming, you can say there's a casual side to gaming, but I don't think it's as casual as movie and music. I think movie and music is as casual.
Sure.
It's like the most casual. Like you literally put on a movie just to fall asleep.
Yeah.
That's because
their bandwidth that needs have been met, so you're good now. Even though, like you're saying, guys, it's surprising to see how much bandwidth is lost when you watch a 4K thing. If you haven't watched a real Blu-ray in a while, but people are so used to it now that it's just convenient. You're fine. You know what I mean? Eventually, we may get there with gaming. Nowhere near now. Nowhere close.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's come to my attention. We haven't actually. You're gonna hate me, Asa. Touched on the CMA topic. We actually took it on it. You think we didn't? We didn't even talk about the fact that the CMA has reversed its position. What does that mean for this deal? No, we talked about it generally because it's such a big, pervasive thing. We're like, it's happening.
Don't worry. This is like a 30-second topic. There's so little to say. Go on, bang, bang, bang. Let's go.
Yes.
But let's go. Okay, so the CMA's reversed its position now. Now it says, as far as console gaming is concerned, it has received significant evidence in response to its original provisional findings. Having considered this evidence, doesn't think that the transaction will substantially hinder competition as far as console gaming is concerned. There's still this nascent cloud market argument, which, let's be real, it's not really going to hinder them. Ace, you know you love this topic, yeah. But you at one point were like, "Ooh, Gaz, what's this?" When when the whole issue with the behavioral remedies and structural ones, and you're like, "This sounds like they're going this way," but they've done a U-turn. And I did say, "Look, there's nothing crazy about it." I expected them to say that, but divestment was never going to be seriously on the cards.
That wasn't really a question, was it? You just kind of said some things.
Like, it doesn't have to be a question. You have to just leave. I knew you were going to do that.
No, I was waiting for the rest because I never know when you're going to stop. The conclusion that they came to this week is that there's not like a significant lessening of competition in the console space that they need to be worried about, which I think we could have told them like a year ago. Like by the numbers, that makes sense. Everyone expected that Microsoft aren't suddenly going to have a dominant position in the console space, regardless of Call of Duty and Activision Blizzard King. They have said specifically that the cloud thing is still, that's what we're waiting on their verdict on the 25th. I still think that'll be a little bit thorny because for two reasons. One of them is that Microsoft have I'm assuming in their own internal documents, identified that as a very big space. And we don't know that. We were just talking a minute ago about where streaming is going and where services are going and what kind of players will play them. And it is very much an open question and a nascent market that needs protecting. But the CMA have also previously identified a group of gamers that they were specifically concerned about, which is people that can't afford consoles, and whether the future outlook is going to be like a good space for those people. And it's a weird one because at the moment there's not a space for those people, right? It's not a market that exists. But if the cloud were to come into fruition and become this, like we're going to be for 2 billion gamers or whatever they say, then suddenly that would be a relevant market. I don't think it's going to get blocked by any stretch on this, but I do think it is still a little bit thorny and it's going to take some working out. That's it. That's all I got on that.
I don't think that will be thorny at all. And I think even if it wasn't,
what can they do to address it though?
I mean, I think they've done, because it's so speculative. Like it's crystal ball stuff. It's like, when will that happen? And does it all hinge on ABK? Does like that cloud market without this consolidation substantially impact this speculative market that hasn't reared its head? And I think they'll find it hard. Like the steps that Microsoft have taken are pretty much enough. I didn't know until today when Kay Asante mentioned the fact that these were their partnerships with these cloud providers were ones that were on the list of ones that the regulators mentioned. But I think that's an easy argument. I think the significance of the CMA now, in my opinion, basically accepting it for me, it's almost, obviously we haven't had a decision. Who knows? Can throw a curveball at us. I'm just guessing here, but I don't think it'll be a problem. To me, it seems like the CMA have approved the deal, and I think that will have a tremendous impact actually on the whole deal. The effect of that will send a shockwave to the European Commission because they will be keeping an eye on it. I think they've already relented on the console space anyway argument. And the FTC is being its strange position as it is. It's in a state of turmoil with its internal constituents, with Lena Khan. They're desperate for more funding. I just cannot see them. This is a lot, and then this may sound like me romanticizing the issue, but with Lena Khan heading it, most of the senior lawyers, they have left. That FTC organization is not doing that well. And the geopolitics of it all, Microsoft and the leverage it's had in things like AI and what's happening with Tencent in China and other regions, it's going to get passed. I think it will go through this summer, like June, July, which will be quite impressive, in my opinion, because then it goes exactly where Microsoft said they expected the deal to be done. Unlike bloody Special Nick from Xbox era thought it was going to happen last summer. What the so shout out to Special Nick. But that was a bit silly. But the deal was going to go through. I think this is it. This is the beginning of that momentum, that push. But who knows? Like you say, maybe a little bit thorny, but I don't think it will be. I cannot see how this would. What frustrates me, this is like this posturing, which really was a posturing of the CMA, and a lot of people, CMA picked the right things. but it really felt like we could have arrived at this conclusion a long time ago. Obviously, as a result of all this pressure, Microsoft has made moves to assuage fears and strike up deals with Nintendo and Nvidia, arguably, which wouldn't have had the regulators not done that. But it's happening now. This is it. This is the beginning of the end for me of this topic. We can see a deadline, and to me, I'm guessing June, July. But and that's it, really. Gents, I don't know if you want to talk about it. Well, in case I know you want to talk about it. You swim the source about this all the time.
No. I agree with all your points. The only thing that I will add to that conversation is it is interesting that when they took the console gaming off the table, they did say the reason why they're taking console gaming off the table specifically with COD is Microsoft has proven enough that it is not advantageous for them to foreclose their rivals in that, which is a difference in statement than they did with Bethesda, because Bethesda, it was, even if you foreclose, we don't care, that won't move the needle, right? So they can then be case by case on that, right? But in saying what they've said here, it means that statement alone means that there will be a version, what version we don't know, but there will be a version of COD on all of these platforms forever. Because the minute you take it off and say, now we're case by casing it, now you're going against what they said, which is it's not advantageous for you to take it off of your rivals, right? Yeah. It's not that it won't move the needle. It will move the needle. They have agreed to that. But you have said that it's not advantageous for you, and they're agreeing with you, which means there always has to be a version on other platforms. So even though the idea of, because I heard somebody, I forget who said it, but somebody was like, the idea that it's not advantageous for them to do it. Have you not met Microsoft? They can eat costs like anybody else, like nobody's business. They can eat the Call of Duty cost if they needed to, because they have that forward vision and they are a sometimes $3 trillion company, right? But because the regulators have said that, right, now you must adhere to it. And that's super interesting, meaning maybe they can make the case of, all the money comes from Warzone, so that's what's going to stay on. That'll be an interesting conversation to have at that point. But it is interesting that they've done that now, as far as removing both CMA and UK and EU have removed
the console element
as a point of concern, right? Yeah. Now, as far as the cloud stuff, from what I'm seeing, it could be a matter of timing. A lot of the stuff we see seems to coming hot and heavy. You get a cloud, you get a cloud, GameOnDaily cloud, everybody got a cloud, right? But they didn't take any of those things into determination when they revised this. They were still busy talking about the console space.
Maybe perhaps it's because they haven't come to tackle that yet, because the console
exactly. Exactly. And that's the reason why I'm within your camp, guys, that this thing's all done, because they're basically what Microsoft seemingly is doing is putting pieces in place to answer your questions before you even ask them. Because after they're done here, then they'll go to that cloud piece. Oh, and by the way, see that list you gave us? Yeah, they all have a deal now. Right. Yeah. The only thing probably that maybe a clincher is Amazon just suspiciously announced that they're now in the UK since last week. So maybe that's the last shoe to drop, and they get a deal as well. But
Asa you couldn't find Call of Duty on Luna this week.
It's gone. It's gone. I saw your tweet there. So, every time you think there's going to be a sticking point, Microsoft is there to already. We've already addressed that. I don't think the CMA and the EU, the Commission in general, are paying attention to it as much as we are. They get to it later, right? They're still on consoles. So by the time they get to cloud, these things are already in place. What else you got? It's a wrap, as they say.
Yeah, it's a wrap, as Marlon Gaming Nation would say. It's a wrap. So unless... It is. Portrock, do you have anything to add? I know it's not exactly.
Yeah, so I know some gamers are wondering why the CMA took long, whatever. So I'm just not to insult anybody's intelligence, but what's 1% of 2.1 million? 2.1 million. What's 1%?
201,000?
21,000. 21,000. Who here has read 21,000 documents pertaining to this deal?
That's
nobody.
Mate, I love this deal. I read that many. I read every single one of them.
No, listen. Yeah. So the reason why I came up with the 2.1 million, because at one point Microsoft said they provided 2.1 million documents to the FTC. That's just Microsoft. Yes. Never mind what Sony has done or the third party. The point I'm trying to make is we already knew the answer, yet we haven't even read.
But the yacht turned slowly. Yes.
Yeah, we have not even read 1% of the information they have.
Yeah.
Right. So the reason why CMA is taking long or whatever, they literally have millions and millions of documents. They have teams. They have lawyers. They have people with master's degrees, and they are sifting. So it's easy for us to say, "Oh yeah, we could have figured this out in 5 minutes." It's not so easy for them.
No, but first of all, they
in addition to the fact that in addition to the fact that they also have no idea what the console space and the gaming space is in general, right? So they have to sift through all that. Now, wasn't there a conversation that one of the CEOs brought consoles to Brussels to show them this is this is that?
It's a combination.
They have to be talked to. Yeah. It takes.
But they are actually literally going through real data, which, and I know I see Gaz's face, but Gaz, if you haven't read at least 21,000 documents, you have not even touched a percentage of what they have to go through.
Yeah, but my counter to that is, they took a position without having the time. If you're saying that they needed to spend time to read, how was it? 200? How many thousand documents?
Well, I said, look, they took a position of concern, not definitive.
2.1 million, right?
Yeah.
That was the document.
At least, right?
But,
they took a position of concern, but they took a position. They didn't make a notice. They took a position. There's a difference between taking a position,
provisional findings,
and take a decision. They just said this is our concern. Everybody pushed the documents. They said, okay, give us time to read it. And specifically to this, they specifically said that, and I'll read an article from Investopedia. It says, however, the CMA indicated on March 24th, after receiving new evidence, it determined that it would not be commercially beneficial to Microsoft to make COD exclusive to Xbox, right? So in the beginning, they said, hey, we have these concerns, but with evidence, information, people reading, you got to give people time to read millions of documents. They'd be like, you know what? After these information we received, now this is our position. That's all it was. But a lot of people were so in a rush, they wanted the CMA or EU to make a decision now. And the people who said, make a decision now, you didn't even read a fraction of the percentage of what they have to go through.
I'm gonna second that, because there's been so much backlash every time the CMA or anyone has said anything saying they don't understand the industry, and you read through what they say and you go, holy shit, they actually do. They understand the industry quite well. Like, I'd never heard of Black Nut when the CMA said, like, we're listing their cloud competitors, and it was very, very clear that they are doing very thorough, in-depth research, and people were just throwing their toys out the pram because they want the result to go one way or the other. I'm thinking that the regulators, at least the UK one, and I'm not saying this because I'm proud of them or anything, like being from the UK, but they have been very thorough and very in-depth with their investigation. I think they do have a very good understanding of the industry as best you can, given that we don't really know where cloud is going, and it is a struggle.
Now, Asante said that Boosteroid was on their list.
Yeah.
Black Nut, Boosteroid, all these ones.
Boosteroid even existed.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? We didn't even know. They literally are reading millions of pages. We read 5 redacted pages from Tom Warren, and now we got it all figured out. Like, come on.
I still don't.
I think it's just as gamers are impatient.
So you're saying that the position, which mirrored a lot of the Sony position and argument, and a lot of it, the competition side of things was geared or weighted towards the sanctity of PlayStation as a whole.
Well, let me ask you,
to be fair,
a market leader, and that's where people took issues with that.
So look, you didn't like the initial stance, right? But look where they're at now. Look where they're at now.
Well, to be fair,
they've done a U-turn on their own original position.
See,
that's the thing. That's the thing. They weren't. It wasn't their original position, right? Yeah. To be fair, they came into the market. They asked all the proponents, what do you think of it? What is your? And most of them went, we shall see, except for one that had a really big problem. So there is and this is me being devil's advocate. There is a thought process that says, we asked 10 people and 9 of them said, nah, no big deal. And the 10th one had a big concern. Yeah. So we will take the 10th one's talking point and go pick that apart. So that's probably where we were, you know what I mean? So it sounded like they were taking their talking points. Yeah. It just so happens that they were the ones speaking the loudest at that time.
And they made the provisional findings last month, Portrock. Like, all of a sudden, they got their reading goggles on, and in a month managed to find all this reading.
They may have been reading all those millions of documents up until now. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, in February, they made that provisional
people
finding.
Just took concern as a decision. CMA didn't make a decision. They said these are concerns, and let everybody have their day in court. And now Microsoft have their day in court. Microsoft provided the better information, the better answers, and the CMA is like, you know what? And I think that's all it was. I think everybody's impatience was really getting ahead of them.
Absolutely, there was impatience and obviously passion and whatever.
Now everybody loves the CMA. Notice how that's CMA finally figured it out.
I don't think we'd say we'd love them, but
just let them do their job. Ultimately, let people who probably has masters and doctorates and actually know regulations, let them do their jobs. I'm sorry, but
to counter that,
I'm not going to cite any gamer, right? And I'm going to be honest, who probably hasn't even read a fraction of the document. Probably could barely.
Well, from Everborn, he has read them all.
Own household. I'm not even sure they even own their own household. That's why I never really fought for this, because I'll be honest,
there is another side of this stuff.
I don't have any.
There is another side of this, right? There is a side that says, yes, it's true that people should have been impatient, but the people were being impatient. But there is a counter to that, saying that part of galvanizing the community and getting people all fired up and all of that actually assisted in getting this done the way it was supposed to.
You could argue that. We don't know that.
Right? If it was kept in the backroom deals, because look, how many times does the CMA and or EU or any of these regulatory bodies start adjudicating something, and the consumer base gets so galvanized that 10 people all put $1,000 in to go and sue for something, and like started sending letters and started pressuring people and started CCing and emailing the CMA and all that helps put pressure on them to possibly get it right. Right. If it was all kept quiet and hush hush, it may not have gone this way. We don't know that.
The CMA has had pressure where it's had some pretty big decisions U-turn by the commercial tribunal here. By CAT here in this country, and there was a big rebuking of it on the basis that its rationale for its decision was fundamentally flawed, and there was the questions on competitiveness. So you cannot afford those kind of hits. But also on this point, like you said, we're gamers. We're not, mergers and acquisitions lawyers, apart from Hogue Law, perhaps. But you're giving it. Sometimes I will say you're giving a little bit too much credit to what is often a political exercise, especially the FTC. FTC more than the
we're
CMA.
Not even talking FTC. That is get out of here with all that.
So I think that's more of a heavier influence politics and money. I think those
politics and money is the reason why this deal will go through.
I think those are the biggest things. So
Microsoft cannot be ignored in this space. It's almost, I said this before, it cannot curtail big business in a way that this would set a precedent. You guys talk about precedent for consolidation. If this were blocked, it would forget gaming. Gaming is such a tiny little precedent for big business.
Nope.
And geopolitics. You think the executive level in America would allow Microsoft to be hindered in an industry that has China circling around it, in the entertainment industry? It sounds crazy. Ace is like grimacing there, but it really is. I don't know why you're grimacing, or you're just doing that Ace default face, but it really is that case. Like with the FTC, it is a political exercise. You've got Lena Khan and you've got her own constituents and her board members leaving, and everyone's left, and then they're like, she's crazy. Like, what's she doing? And now we're asking for more money. That is a political exercise. I'm not trying to discount CMAs as an institution, but the rationale behind it did make sense. If it's based on what you were saying, workload and the sheer density of documents that they need to consider, I just question how a month can make such a fundamental difference. Perhaps you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't have the benefit of being there to make that decision. But all we could have done at this point is, other than ignore it, which Asa would have loved, was also talk about it from our position and our optics of the industry and how Sony operates. And yeah, of course it's a console warring thing. Of course it's a massive thing. Of course me as an Xbox fanboy would be fighting this case for it. But obviously there's some attempt at trying to rationalize it as well. Like if there was, I've said it that it was stupid how Phil Spencer. I said how Microsoft came across weak. Isn't a case of me being an Xbox guy. Like you made a weak case. I'm just bewildered by the fact that there was no time limit for Sony to accept this deal. It means that they knew or felt that the case was weak. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but we'll look back at this, by the way, as as much as it annoyed us, it's still quite an interesting time generally in the gaming industry. I mean, Destin Laguerre built his whole channel up on this point. I don't know what that YouTube algorithm is going to do to him. He's got 100k subs base just covering this multiple times a day. And why would that happen? Because the gamers understood that. They not understood it, but they cared about it. And I think observing this guy from IGN going solely focusing on the CMA to the point where he's releasing 3 videos a day, that the algorithm was picking this up, says like, this is the gaming industry. It's weird. Like the gamers really care about this stuff.
Hoaglaw gained a lot of his respect because of this exact topic, because people needed education and he was there to provide it, so it is whether we know it or not, whether we want to admit it or not, it is something that galvanizes the community and really got people to pay attention.
Now wait till Sony does a publisher acquisition, and it's coming very, very soon. Sony will it will be a publisher level acquisition.
You sound like you know something there, guys. I need you to start spilling some tea. I think you know something, man.
I definitely want Sony to acquire a publisher. And and people will hate me for that, but I would love it if they did it. And if they did Capcom, as much as people would hate me for it, as much as it doesn't need to, I would love it. One for the salt, plus obviously that Xbox guy is like, oh, okay.
Roger, you're treading close. They're about to, they made you, bro.
I did this before. I said this before. You used to see on XNC when I was there. Man, every time I said that, the top comment was Gaz is a secret pony. But like, I do believe that. But it's been an interesting thing. Hopefully, we'll finally see. Gentlemen, I'm so sorry. We've spent over 3.5 hours, 3 hours, a quarter minute, 3 hours, 15 minutes on this, and
Aza's favorite subject.
Yeah, on Ace's subject. Before we do
I
wrap
think we should
up,
counteract that by talking VR for a while. Because
no. They'll definitely leave. One thing we'll talk about: Hellblade 2. It got its facial tech out today, and a lot of people got misconstrued some things. We need to clarify some points. And I was talking to discussing it with OT, who's also a very divisive figure, but I like OT. 09084070, whatever his handle is. We're talking about it. So during the Epic State of Unreal presentation at GDC, the company showed off their technology, and Unreal Engine's MetaHuman tool was shown off. And holy crap, man! Like, they did it on their mobile phone. They literally went in, scanned the face, real time, showed you how they did it. And if you haven't seen it, people, please check it out. I think Ace is doing the magic. I feel bad for us. This is like, shut up, I'm not your assistant. Don't be a bitch. Yeah. But it's but it is. I can never tell. I said, can you imagine how that sounds? Can you please put it up? But I can't do anything because I'm a useless shit. But I can just talk. But this tool is going to be incredible. One thing we need to clarify: this is not in-game visuals. It's just the motion capture tech. You already saw what the game looks like last year, but if you combine this tech with already the visual prowess of Unreal Engine 5, I think it's going to be incredible. But one thing you did say, Porterrock, which silently agreed on, because was that you said Ninja Theory are going to be Microsoft's probably best bet, and Hellblade 2 is going to be one of their best games. But I echo your sentiments. 3 years, 4 years in, however long it's been, why are we still seeing facial animations? When do you think we'll actually get to see this game?
I hope soon. Like I said, so I'm at the point where from this point on, I don't really care about knowing more tech. Like, I really don't. Like, at this point, give me the games, show me the games. We had our time period before the consoles launch, and maybe 1 year or 2 years, Unreal Engine or this engine. But 2023 and up until right before the new generation begins, I don't want to hear no more talk about tech. Like, I'm tired of it. It just gets old. I'm more concerned the transition away from cross-gen into actual current-gen games and just see how the games play out. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Ninja Theory, but I'm not really interested in seeing more face tech. I want to see the game itself, more of the game. Sure, other people, GDC, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done it if they're going to appease a certain group that's into that, but I'm not really interested. Let's say if Insomniac right now shows Spider-Man 2 more advanced machine learning muscle tech from Spider-Man 2, I would be like, what? That's not what I want to see. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I could see how great it was, but I'm just not interested in another face tech demo. I want to see the game. I'm more interested at this point. I want to know about the actual game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to play it day one. I'm just not into tech on any level from anybody. I'm just done.
Fair enough. You just want to see it in practice.
I just want to see the game. It's 2023. At some point, we got to move on from tech demonstrations to actual game implementation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what about you, KSLT? Are you? Well, the tech itself is impressive, but when are you expecting this game to actually come out?
I mean, and I will preface this by going, I'm a speeds and feeds guy. I'm a tech dude. It's what I do for a living. I love seeing behind the curtain. So I'm always down for tech, but that's because I'm a speeds and feeds guy. I do agree with the Porter Rock on the point of, I think that maybe the delay here is more of the COVID stuff that's kind of delayed, because in a normal console cycle, we'd be beyond this by now. But since we're still kind of in cross-gen territory, there are certain games that release on last gen still, so maybe that's where there's some delays but I do agree that we should, at this point, it shouldn't be all about the speeds and feeds. For people like me, GDC, I'll be eating all that up. I enjoy all that stuff, but it shouldn't be what you market moving forward. Now, as far as when we will see it, that's the question, right? Like, I will say, and I'm not gonna sit here and throw all the accolades at the engine, because I see infinite number in the chat, and the minute we say Unreal Engine 5 is great, Tim Sweeney sends him some money. Like, this man gets Tim Sweeney money. I'm telling you, he's about that. But no, it seems that Microsoft is changing the way they market things, right? Like, you see a game coming out in June and you won't even see anything about it really until March. Like it makes it interesting. Like, before, in the old historical sense of it, you want to see last year, and then it slowly drip feeding it throughout the year before you get it. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of it this year, this E3, and then see the game drop this holiday. Even though that's what very short. Said. Yes, and I wouldn't be surprised about that, right? Look at what they're doing with Starfield, which is bonkers. In a world, in a historical context, a game of that size and that magnitude, you'd think the tail of marketing would be long, but that's not what's happening right now. No. So, so it kind of makes you go, well, they have nothing in the tank because they're not showing anything. But that's not really what's going on, right? They're dropping stuff, dribs and drabs, and then boom, the whole game is out there for you. So when will we see it? I hope it's this year, right? It looks like
if it's not this year, I think people will be pissed. I'll be pissed. What's going on with this?
There's rumor and speculation abound, right? There's definitely rumor and speculation abound, and some people are saying things. I'm not going to speak on what the things they're saying, because who knows if it's true or not, right? But all I'll tell you is, it seems like we might be surprised that they just kind of drop it like it's hot, like it just comes right at this point, even though there isn't that historical long tail of marketing that you come to expect, right? So it's an interesting time. Ask me at the end of this year. If at the end of this year we're still talking about the same code names and we're still talking about the same
Iceland. Don't talk about Iceland again. From God,
right?
Bloody Iceland.
Then that smoke is justified, and people can just, they can give them that righteous smoke. But for right now, I think they're trying different things, and we might be surprised at what happens. Right? I'm looking forward to seeing what happens from them this year.
Absolutely. I say pissed. I'm not going to be pissed, but I'm just going to be disappointed because I'm desperate to see more. But more, as always, and I always say it, especially this, like Starfield, this game cannot be shit. It has to be great. It has to be great. So more than if it's a delay, there's no delay, there's no date. So, but if it needs to be pushed back for whatever reason, or it's still
and no more Iceland videos. Leave the Iceland videos.
Yeah.
Give me some more speeds and feeds, but no more Iceland videos.
Or at least show us at E3 the combat, because there's some questions again. The gameplay trailer that's running here looks very impressive, but all she does is walk forward, and walk back or run back. And it's like, that's not really gameplay as such. It's just very restrained gameplay segments laced in with cutscenes. Hey, so before we go to the last topic, or anything to add on Hellblade, did you see that?
I've seen it, yeah. It was the game developers conference. It was a very nerdy kind of tech demo of what MetaHuman can do that probably has been taken out of context a little bit. It has vibes of what's that, like Heavy Rain and Detroit loading scenes where you put everything on the character to make it look as good as possible. And yeah, it looks amazing. Let's wait and see what the gameplay looks like. If it's
by the way, real quick, everything you saw there, the GDC, both in E3, both in the UE5 demo and all that, all running on 4090s. So calibrate your expectation a little correctly. They even said it. That's another all thing. Running on 4090s. So
that's another thing. 4090 max of 32 gigs, 64 gigs of memory. Yes. They probably overclocked it. They probably have overclocked CPUs. They're talking about top of the line machines, balls to the walls, and it's limited to just the face. Now, once you expand to the whole world, you got console development, Xbox Series S.
I love the
all
way
that
you
changes now. All that changes now. You know, all that. That's why I said tech no more. I'm just done with it. Good for the techies. Enjoy, and it's a good thing for you guys. But playing 2023, I just want to see the games and just show me more about the games. And that's it.
I agree with you on that. But on the tech side of things, I will say, I looked at that and I said, look about indies. The Unreal Engine's getting a lot mass adoption with indies as well. I saw one sole indie dev that has tried for a better part of 10 years.
As like a developers conference, and you look at the tools that these things are bringing, and the AI is going to bring, and going forwards, like the potential for smaller outfits to create incredibly detailed games is an exciting thing. But yeah.
It's still, exactly. I mean, I don't know what the reality is. I'm not a developer there sitting on an Unreal Engine, but I saw that. I was like, indies, you can just do it. Potentially, it's making it easier anyway. Unreal Engine is just crazy. Unreal Infinite Umbra, I'm there with you, bro. My name is Mud.
He needs to see more praise from Unreal Engine from me. Forgive me, sir. I haven't hit your quota for the day. Forgive me.
The Unreal Engine is becoming a force. People like in my future of gaming video, I just say think about the homogenization of game design and what they look like with Unreal Engine.
That's where I'm with you, sir. That's where I'm with you.
There's a risk
I feel
there.
Like the consolidation there might be a problem, but
no, definitely. Let's not go there. My name is Mud with a $6 super check. Significant evidence. When I was talking about the CMA saying they've received significant evidence, he goes, "Oh, he means AKA money." Just
campaign funds. Hey, it is what it is. Whatever it takes. Got to be like Captain America. Whatever it takes.
With the PC, perhaps I think that there's a factor there. But Microsoft is well. I won't get into that. Dub with the $5 super check goes, I think the talk of the tech wasn't really for gamers because it was for GDC, which is focused on specifically on tech. You're right. It actually is. I found it really interesting as a non-dev. I was thinking all these tools are making it a little bit easier for indies, perhaps to make it it's so easy. Like the guy was did it live. Like they scanned the face, did it live, not only scanned, replicated a face, but replaced the facial like that with different models, and animated models, characters as well. Like it was like, wow, holy, it's amazing. So hopefully we'll see what the results of that tech. We'll hear about this soon, I'm sure. Alvin with $5 super because we just heard from Tony Todd that Spidey marketing won't start till August. No one seems to care. That's how the industry is going. So the final topic is this. Spider-Man 2 is, let's be real, releasing in September. So Tony Todd, the Venom voice actor, actually leaked it out and he kind of breached his NDA there. And now he said he's been muzzled. He's not going to talk about it anymore. But let's be Spider-Man 2 is planned to release in September, most likely, and it's facing off Starfield. That's going to be an interesting battle because I saw this in the console war space, like Starfield versus Spider-Man. Spider-Man will bury it. And really, Spider-Man is such a massive household name. As far as sales are concerned, I don't even think that's a question. But Portrock, you seem looking confused there. Did you not hear about this?
No, I heard about that. So I seen the Twitter conversation about which game is going to trump 2. The thing is, though, you got 2 different audiences on their unique lanes.
Exactly.
So if I'm on Xbox, what does Spider-Man got to do with me? And if I'm on PlayStation, what does Starfield got to do with me? Unless you got both, where now you got both platforms, or you have a PC and a PS4, something where at this point, or I have a decision to make and I can only buy one game. I either buy Starfield or either buy Spider-Man, which I don't think a lot of people in that position, because I think most gamers, you're going to get both.
Yeah.
Right? The only ones that really are in this battle is the one console, which is fine, the one platform gamer. But at that point, you already made the choice for yourself. If you just bought an Xbox Series X and that's what you prefer to play, you're going to buy Starfield. Spider-Man is irrelevant to you, and vice versa to the PS5 gamer. So that's why I say, which is the battle between the two, doesn't make sense. Because really, if there is a battle, that's the multi-plat gamer. And I don't think there's a multi-plat gamer. Because by right, if you're a multi-plat gamer, this is the reason why. You want the games that you can get. So you're going to get both. And for those that don't get both, chances are it's because you can't, because you don't have the platform to get the other game. So that's why I don't see the head-to-head battle, because I don't see the audience for it.
No, absolutely. And I just... this whole point of Spider-Man in terms of sales is, I don't think anyone's expecting Starfield to best Spider-Man. It's a household name, K-Santi. You would be pretty shocked if Starfield somehow bested Spider-Man, even though it's actually technically on PC as well.
Starfield's at a disadvantage, though, to be honest, right?
Yeah,
and I know
because it's a household IP versus something brand new that's never come out before. Like,
not just that, right? Because I know some people use Skyrim, pass data, Fallout 4, which is true, but there's one difference. It's no longer on PlayStation. PlayStation was part of the success of Skyrim. So now you limited the game to 2 platforms, and you got Game Pass, which in itself does take away from sales. Sure, there's still going to be some guys buying it, but not in the same amount as if you didn't have a choice for Game Pass. There's going to be a lot of gamers who are done buying games because Game Pass is a great way to consume games. So they moved on from buying games.
I think the battle that would have been interesting to see that we will never see is Starfield versus Diablo 4. Now that Venn diagram is very close, but Spider-Man versus that's a different, they're different lanes. You know what I mean? So
I see what you're saying, because that's almost a similar,
PC gamer versus PC gamer, gamers, very long, big games compared to each other. People will spend, like, Spider-Man will crush, and you'll play it for 2 weekends, because then there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And Starfield, if it's anything like Skyrim and then the others, people are going to be playing those games forever and a day, right? So it's a different paradigm.
That battle's going to happen, though, because the day that Starfield comes out is the same day that the second season battle pass for Diablo 4 comes out.
That's not confirmed, chat. That's just Asa being.
I think the main thing is that we both games are quality. That's just come out with, because I'm looking forward, because like I said, I'm a Bethesda fan. So hopefully I get that same feeling when I play Fallout, Elder Scrolls, get that same feeling, but in space. They're able to deliver that same fun that those 2 games presented. And then, of course, Spider-Man, I'm hoping the best for Spider-Man, and you just enjoy both, But I don't see the battle other than forcing it on Twitter. Because there's nothing else to talk shit about. I think that's what it is. There's nothing else to talk shit about, so you create this fabricated. But if you're a multi-plat gamer, you're gonna get both. And if you're not a multi-plat gamer, then you stuck with a choice that you decide you stick with the platform that you on. Buy another platform if you want the other game. Which will always be my advice. Get the other platform and enjoy the game.
You're Team Blue, just as much as I'm Team Green. This year, do you have some concerns about the output of PlayStation as far as first party is concerned?
So this is another reason why I can't wait till this deal goes through, because even though it's anecdotal and it's just a personal feeling, I get the feeling that Sony's kind of holding back, because you can't really say you can't really. It's kind of like, think about it. Let's say, like, if I got into a car accident with Asa, right? A little fender bender. We both get out the car. Exchange insurance company. Then all of a sudden, Asa receives a letter, Puerto Rico suing you, right? And then in court, I come in a wheelchair with my leg up, and I'm talking. What happened with Asa changed my life, right? And of course, like, oh my God, so sorry, Aza, what did you do? But then the next day, I'm in the club drinking shots with cats. That looks kind of stupid. Like, wait a minute, So that's just me, but I'm thinking Sony's not gonna ball out.
Good analogy, man. Good analogy.
Like, hey,
interesting analogy.
We're hurting, we need Call of Duty, and then all of a sudden we got Spawn, we got Superman, we got Wonder Woman,
Spawn,
we got
Superman, Wonder Woman.
Like, what the fuck is going on? Everybody's like, we bought CD Projekt Red. And everybody's like, yo, what the hell just happened? So Sony, so I'm hoping after this ABK goes through, Sony will finally say, hey, all right, we lost, whatever. Hey, show a showcase, show the.
We buy CD Projekt Red.
There's a lot of projects. I know Neil Druckmann confirmed that this year they're gonna mention and talk about and review. And I don't say he said they're gonna talk about The Last of Us Project Factions, the multiplayer's coming. Sony did do some third-party deals, Final Fantasy 16, Stellar Blade, so that's always been Sony's repertoire to try to leverage third-party to fill in gaps. But I do want to see more stuff. They got VR out. I know that's niche to a lot of people, but technically that is still providing something to the customers, whether you like it or not. It's still providing content, right? Burning Shores is exclusive to PS5. So they made a DLC specifically built for the console. I'm assuming they're trying to give Guerrilla more reps on just PS5 only development. So there are some things, but I do like to see a show for even more projects and see what's going on.
So without this, don't you think that for whatever the reason, don't you think that it's a bit sparse for PlayStation? Or do you think PSVR plus Spider-Man is enough?
No, so that's the thing. So I'm used to Sony doing two things, using their first party and then try to leveraging third party. Like if you're a PlayStation gamer and you play for PlayStation for a long time, they leverage both. They found a way to accommodate for both, and they're doing that. They're still sticking with that strategy. They got the first party. They say, hey, we're going to leverage our third party that's kind of associated with PlayStation, primarily Square Enix this year. So they're delivering that. They took over the Stellar Blade project because apparently that wasn't going to happen. I think they talked about it where it used to be on Xbox, but now it's not. Well, that game was going to get canceled. So they said, whoa, stop. Don't cancel it. Come bring this over, So that's just about now from a pure first party perspective. If you want to eliminate nothing else from if you want to eliminate everything else and just strictly from the strength of first party, right? Then they pretty much they got the VR, which is a limited audience, and you got to buy the device to actually enjoy it. Potentially Factions and Spider-Man, and then a couple of DLC and stuff like that. So for some people, from the conversation of pure first party, then you could say it's a little bit spark from pure. But from the PlayStation fan, if you're a long-time PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4 gamer, you realize Sony always leverages multiple avenues to try to bring content to its audience. And so it depends on how you want to look at it.
And to be fair, Sony has uncharacteristically produced great content out of the gate this generation. The first years have been great.
To make one point, like Xbox 2022, right? Everybody realizes it's not that good. But the main reason is they still haven't figured out to get the right third-party content to fill in that gap. Like they got Scorn, Crossfire X, and the reason, right? But think about it, those games didn't hit. What if Crossfire X became like the new big hit multiplayer game similar to PUBG? It would be a totally different conversation 2022. If let's say Scorn was like the new Resident Evil.
Yeah.
You understand? So Microsoft still has to work on getting that right third-party content that really hits, which covers the gap. And it goes far. People think...
Yeah, that's true. I'm not done.
For us YouTubers, we're going to put the first party. But when you look at the optics of just gaming, if Crossfire would have been like the PUBG, the new PUBG, if Scorn would have been like the new big hit horror game, if Pentiment or Dust Falls would have been like the new Detroit Become Human, 2022 would have been a different conversation because these games would have been huge, big, and Sony relied on that. Remember, Sony relied on Detroit Become Human. That's not a first-party game, but it was huge for them,
Yeah. Everyone associates it as his first party.
Yeah. So from the optics, if you come and co-sign with a big hitter, then no one's really going to, other than us who have the deep conversation, the game who picks up the controller, they're just gonna see my preferred platform's first party delivered a great game. They're not going to get into the weeds of whether it's third party, first party. All they know is this is a great game and it's available on my platform and you can only get on this platform. I'm good.
Yeah. No, well, I wouldn't underestimate third parties. Stellar Blade, could be incredible. Final Fantasy 16, massive, and that I expect that to review quite well. Basically, it looks really impressive. So it's not a wash as far as first party concerned. Then I think it's on paper Xbox has it easy, but reality is if Final Fantasy 16 hits and if Stellar Blade hits, and it's like a Bayonetta, but visually impressive and all of that. And then you've got well, I don't think remake episode 2 is coming this year, but then you get Spider-Man 2, which could be great. Well, it's most likely going to be great. And then Factions drops, then the conversation has changed. But
I think that's a huge key. Factions, I think I'm just rolling the dice, but I think Factions might come out this year. Only for one.
I am also saying that as well. I just think that it will.
The PC version's coming out soon, right? The remake, right?
Yeah.
They're riding off the wave of the show. Now they're gonna ride into getting the PC market into The Last of Us remake. Once that kind of, the PC gamers are buying it, they're talking about it, they're doing naked mods or whatever. Now's the time to take advantage of that momentum into releasing Factions multiplayer. Because I think if it comes out next year, you dulled it.
Yeah.
Like if it don't come out this summer.
You think it's going to lose its bluster?
Yeah, okay. It lose the momentum. So the summer, there's nothing Last of Us centric. The winter, fall, nothing Last of Us centric. If anything, Starfield, Spider-Man will take over the conversation. Maybe, other games, multiplayer, Call of Duty will also take over. Then you got the 2Ks, the Maddens, and now you release Factions next year in March, let's say. You just lost a lot of momentum that could have been built into this game and dulled it out. So I have a feeling we'll probably get this game this year, this multiplayer this year.
I think so too. I think they've also said that they were not going to announce it far ahead of time and they will show it. But we haven't seen anything but concept yet. So there's that question there. Rambling Entertainment with a $5 super chat goes, what is everyone's thoughts on the Series S? Poor man's Vin Diesel thinking... Oh my God! Why do they call you Vin Diesel? He's holding back
because the big ass forehead. It's like Odie would look like the Toretto family. Myself, it's the forehead. It's the 5 head. It's the 5 head.
Five
family is everything.
Sony should just buy Square Enix already. Squeenix. I just said that without even intending to do that. We won't get into that, but thank you for that chat, Rambling Entertain. You're just calling him poor man Vin Diesel. Series S, we've talked about it before. Square Enix is a good point. I was talking to someone about it. They're already in bed with each other. So the question is, what's the utility of
why buy the cow when you're getting the milk already?
Yeah, exactly. And on that, gents, thank you so much for being patient. This show has dragged. It's probably one of our longest show in a very, very long time. There was a lot to talk about, and we had a great discussion. It's pretty civil, as always. Do I sound like I'm so sounding surprised? But it's outro time, gents. Asante, thank you so much. I can see you there patiently. Hope you had a good time on the show, man.
Absolutely. Hey, and I have a newfound respect for the man Porter Rock, man. I think whoever writes your tweets, you need to write more of your tweets, man, because you have a very good take.
No. So let me tell you something. I say this time and time again, I lost all faith in Twitter. So on Twitter, I try to be the nice guy. It is impossible. So I'm sorry,
I agree with you.
I enjoy scumbags and Twitter.
I enjoy the nuanced conversation. So more often than not, you'll see me block people because I like the clean timeline, and it gets a little crazy on there. But no, I appreciate the conversation. I think it was a good conversation. We don't agree on everything, but your reasons are very sound, and I appreciate that. Of course, my VR brethren here, and as well as the Sauce Master. I'm always appreciative of being on here. So thank you guys so much for having me on. So you can find me, K Asante, TKO Asante, Twitter, all those places you want to find me. We didn't have a show this week, but we suspect we will have one next week where we will, get a little more slanderous as we do on a Saturday morning. But thank you guys so much. And yes, I see the link in the chat. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's always fun chopping it up with you guys, even on a very long show like this one.
Yes, no, thank you so much, man. And I'm glad you had a good time. Last but certainly not least, look, man, people always say, why Fortrock? You know the circles that we're in. You're going to be the bad guy.
You're the bad guy.
You're the bad guy. But you're not the bad guy. On Twitter, you're the bad guy. But I'm a bad guy to a lot of PlayStation guys. You're literally like, we're the mirror opposites. But I always have nuance. Like last time you had on it, like Fonz was like, that Portrock was great. And like that was really good chat. It's like Twitter is different. Nuance is lost. I understand. Like, I'm a dick this week on Twitter. I've been such a prick this week.
But that's the best way to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Just unleash the fury. Just
exactly. You got a chat like Wooly Gamer. Who's this piece of shit? Let me just go take the shit out. Take a shit on his chest. It's fun. But it is what it is. As long as we keep it real. But Portrock, I have a lot of respect for you. Thank you so much for coming on, man. And I hope you had a good time, man. And tell the good people where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite. I was so looking forward to talking about acquisition with Asa. This is our topic. We call each other all the time.
We do.
Like this is consuming our lives, right? But hey, thank you so much. Asante, thank you so much. I'm glad I was able to chop it up with you, the podcast.
Sure,
I'm glad you see the real me. This is the only time you'll see it.
No, this is a good point. I like this. This is good.
This is good. The time and time again. Twitter, though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I lost faith in Twitter. I'll be honest. I think 90% of the people that talk didn't even get a high school diploma. So I just you know what? I just lost faith. I will never get that faith back. But on podcast, this is where it's at. This is where you get to put and I love the format. You get to see a face, and when you put your face behind your words, I think you get better nuance, better conversation.
Agreed.
People want to see the real you. Twitter, especially with them hentai avatars.
What is that?
Once I see them, I'm like, oh, it's coming. You know, all these cartoon characters. Once I see a cartoon character, oh, here we go. Let the ruckus begin, right?
I tweeted about that.
Thank you so much for the invite. Truly appreciate it. I'm glad. Great topics. Thank you so much. Puerto Rock 77 every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. 60 Frames No Like podcast. Come through. Great conversation. Again, a little bit more rowdy, but everyone's welcome for the conversation, stuff like that. But thank you so much.
Absolutely. Definitely check it out. Me and Ace have been on there. We actually had a good time. We had a J-Dub who's the serial troll. He makes me look calm, like an innocent little puppy, because J-Dub is insane. But I had such a good time with him on the show, man. And I'm in there with my corner with our circle of Colt. Fonzie, like, J-Dub. I was like, he's a good guy. He's like, no, he's not. He calls us a piece of shit. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I had a good time with him.
I'm so confused. Hey, if Sony acquires Capcom, you got to be on my show, because I got questions for you. That's new. All right, listen, how did you know?
He seems like he knows something, right? He knows something. He's just not saying it.
He keeps saying it. I can understand Impasse, Capcom as an example, but he's not using Capcom as an example. He's saying it. Hold on, really?
You never know. You never know. I don't have any insider sources. I'm actually just saying it.
Asante, we're gonna go after this dude. We'll be like, we don't want you.
I'm just waiting to hear them actually announce it officially. I'm gonna come with Gaz, be like,
Gaz.
You piece of shit, Gaz. You willed it to existence. Yes, you can come at me.
You're gonna have a lot of Xbox guys mad at you. It's your fault.
They're always mad at me. They're always mad at me. I can't find a semblance. I don't care anymore. I just have to do what I have to do. But they always come at me. But this other jet also comes up at Asa. I know you look like you're about to knock out, so I'm just going to do the outro time. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, it's been a long day. Not a long show. The show's been just fine, but it's been a long day, so I am ready to sleep. I will be on the PlayStation VR 2 tomorrow, playing a bit of Switchback and a bit of Walking Dead Saints and Sinners that I stream all fancy quality on my channel over there. Talk a lot on Thursday as well, where there's a Q&A show where we just talk about whatever's going on in gaming, and that's all good fun as well. Gaz, I don't come at you. I give you opportunities to get your points across because you're busy hosting the show, and when you say bold things about loving consolidation, I want you to have a chance to express yourself. So I'm not coming at you. I'm giving you a chance to talk. That's great.
He's giving you the noose to hang yourself with.
Yeah. Don't need to do that.
He's like, no. Just say a couple of words. I'm really interested. I'm like,
I've never seen Asa encourage me to talk, so I was like, wait, Asa wants to hear me talk? And on consolidation, I can chew your ear out.
On that rare occasion that I think you might have something interesting to say, Gaz, then I'll push it along.
If I would have been your lawyer, I would have been Gaz, plead the fifth. In America, you don't have to say nothing. Plead the fifth. I don't know what's it called in England. Plead it.
we get the fifth still applies here because it's international. There you go.
Plead the fifth.
But no, it's been like a great show. Everyone's been great to talk to. We've had loads of people in chat as well. We were like nearly 700 people at one point. So thank you everyone for coming along and talking to us. It's been a good one. Gaz, what are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, I'm gonna be playing. Well, apart from the timestamps, which I'm doing after the show ends.
Exactly.
I will not stop that. I will not stop that. Just the pressure always. I'll be playing a few games of Diablo with my friend. I'm gonna go actually play Resident Evil. It's Ramadan. I'm not gonna sleep till 4 a.m. So I'm just gonna sit there and play a bit of Resident Evil 4. It's such a great game. And then yeah, Jonas. Also, sorry, the super chat coming from Jonas the Dad, very nice of him. He says, love the sauce and the civilized talk. We need it. Of course, on this show, we always do. We have some spicy hot takes here and there, but it's always civilized, and we always respect our guests because we respect them. But yeah, we have lots of games, man. I've got a video. So I've got the Consolidation is good thing, which I think will probably get everyone to hate me, but that's fine. And I've got another couple of videos in the works. The PlayStation Pro article, I actually had it ready and I cancelled it. It's going to be more speculative about whether we need a mid-gen console. It's not really that exciting. So kind of like put my attention into another exciting topic, which is comic book games and what could be explored. Because I'm a new entrant in the comic book space. I've just discovered them and they are actually incredible stories. So I would see so much scope for them to be explored in gaming. So that's be more exciting than mid-gen consoles. So I thought, fuck it, I don't need that video. But yeah, thank you so much. That was a really long outro as always. Please smash the like button if you enjoyed the chat. Thank you for your support. And for people who love the sauce, please subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Peace.